red and gold going to be taking on the gold and red here. Coming up shortly, Renegades versus Sanguine is the match that we are going to be jumping into. But a reminder for all of you out there, you don't have to watch it alone. Yes, you're there with Twitch chat, and this might surprise you, but there are people behind those names in Twitch chat, and they can jump into Discord alongside you. You can all chat and watch in our official Discord. Make sure that you jump out there and watch together, because this is going to be an incredible matchup and one that I am personally excited for. And I know I'm not alone here on this desk. I've got Aggro sitting way over there, so far away from me. But we also are bringing in none other than the Yanis main himself. Maybe not even main, just the best one that we've got in the league, Herwin, who's going to be joining us here. Hey, Herwin, how are you doing? And, well, thanks for coming on today.
I'm doing good, man. I'm just glad to be here. I'm excited to see some good games. I feel like it's been a while.
Unfortunately, you did not quite go the way you wanted to there on Tuesday, although you looked good going out, so I guess that's the best thing you could ask for, right? Go down in a blaze of glory overall, and so you're going to be able to come through. But it's Renegades and Sanguine right now that are the real big talk of the town. And Aggro, I mean, this is a matchup that kind of historically, at least most times, has been lopsided towards Sanguine.
Until the one that made the most, was the most important, I should say, which was those Phase 2 playoffs. But you're right, during the regular season, Sanguine dominated this matchup. But that's kind of what Sanguine did during the regular season to most teams. It wasn't Renegade specific. I think the big deal for the Sanguine squad is, can they perform like they were performing during the regular season here in a very important match? Because that's something that we haven't seen from them here yet in Season 7.
Well, so far, nothing but 3 zeros that we have seen all week. Although, again, a lot of those a little closer than the numbers, I think, indicate. Some of those games kind of going either way, a coin toss, if you will. But Renegade Sanguine, one that, at least the last time they played each other, went to 4 games out of the 5 they were able to play. It was kind of surprising, again, to see the Renegades be the one standing on top. Herwin, as someone, especially when you've come into this, you've gotten to play some of these best of 5s. How does that make a big difference, right? Regular season, it's all best of 3s. You know you're going to be playing each other a few times. What's the big change, especially like jumping onto the world stage? How does that change?
The big change, in my opinion, just has to do with how you prep and how you react. So in a best of 5, you don't really have a lot of time to really change your strategies and stuff. You need to have it all like planned out. So if things aren't really going your way, you need to be ready to make like a quick turn and try something else. You know, if you practice something and you don't pull it out, then it's just kind of wasted. So you'll kind of see people kind of jumping from their strategies in that best of 5 when things aren't going their way.
Yeah, like things like blink off wash, I guess, coming through as well. Maybe something we'll get to see again. And you know what? You're a mid laner. Actually, you're both mid laners. I'm actually really lucky to have you both here. Blink up wash, hurry, I'm going to jump to you first. I mean, thoughts on that? Was that just because it was a matchup against Belt Slap, or is there maybe some merits to that from Venenu?
No, that's absolutely something Venenu might do, in my opinion. I think he's just going blink because his team strategy is to get in there. You know, people go blink on things like Chang'e, maybe you'll see on Janice, Scylla. I think his whole team strategy is to get in there, and the best way to get in there is to go blink as well yourself, even on Opwash. So I'm guessing that was the thought process. I really don't think he was trolling or anything. I just think that's how they play the game, or how they play the game in that set at least. So.
Aggro, are we going to see that again? Like, is that another thing that gets pulled out here, or is that kind of pocketed maybe for later? I mean, Hurry just said with the strategies, maybe it's something that comes through a little often.
Could be, but I think that was probably just if we're going to see a lot of healers. If we see a lot of healers, I'd expect the Opwash again. Maybe not as much with Blink, because by the time he got that team was really far ahead. But in general, yeah, I could see a team like Renegades being willing to take something like the Opwash again. That's what they kind of do. They pick these weird things and force you to adjust to them.
Well, I can't think of anyone who might know whether or not Opwash is going to get locked in a little better than the Renegades themselves. I think we have Lazarus standing by. And as much as I think I want to dive into immediately saying, hey, Lazarus, are you locking in Opwash? I think I'll let that be a surprise for us, right? You guys can keep that one pocketed for the games going up. Thanks for joining us here. You have an interesting matchup, which is going to be up against Panatom specifically there in the jungle. Both of you have had some of the best performances of the year. Some of you have had some weaker performances throughout the year. What are you expecting to encounter today in the jungle?
I think it's just gonna be like all the other games, not anything like too special. I'm ready for it at least.
I can tell you're honed in on this. You know exactly what you're going to be doing. This is a team, again, you know, let's look at it recently. You were able to beat them the last time you met up. Is there anything different for Sanguine when you're doing prep versus other teams? Like, how do you prepare for this team? We always talk about their meta picks. What was going through your mind after you found out they were going to be your opponent?
I think there were a few key players on the team that does really well, so we tend to focus a bit more on them maybe. And then, I mean, we're just gonna do our own thing, focus on ourselves the most. I think that's the best way to secure win.
Yeah, do your own game just better than they can do their game, and that's how you win, right, at the end of the day. Again, going back to the Phase 2 playoffs, you were able to, unfortunately, you lose that first game, but you win the next 3 after that to Sanguine here. Is there anything that you think is going to relate from that playoffs to today? Is that going to be able to tie in, or are you treating this like its own event? Again, it is isolated. You just want to make sure this one goes well.
Yeah, I'm just making ready for a 3-0 to us, and hopefully it's gonna be some quick games.
Hopefully, at least for the Renegades fans out there, they want it to go fast and they want it to be in your favor. Well, good luck in your games, man. Hopefully they go well for you, although I'm just rooting for some good Smite either way. Thanks again for joining us. And I mean, looking at this, Aggro, Hurry, it sounds very much as if Lazarus is just, again, and all of the Renegades prepared to play their own game. Aggro, I mean, it sounds pretty straightforward, right? Go in and do what we do.
Yeah, he sounds pretty relaxed, honestly. I mean, this is undoubtedly the biggest game of Lazarus' career. Remember, he hasn't been in the SPL for that long, really got his first shot last year. This is the furthest he's been able to go at the World Championship, so to see him being a little bit relaxed, I think that Lazarus is an excitable guy. I'm sure it's bubbling just beneath the surface, but keeping those emotions in check, especially when you realize that, hey, this is the most important game I've ever played in my Smite career, that's really important to do, and it seems like he's doing a good job.
And Hurry, I mean, you were there with us while we were watching, these Phase 2 playoffs. Do you think that was it a fluke at all? I mean, it's a 5-0 in favor of Sanguine in the regular season over Renegades. They beat them every time, but then when it mattered at the playoffs, they weren't able to show up. Was that a mistake on Sanguine's part? Was it kind of an off day for Renegades showing up that well? Or can we expect to maybe see another upset here?
As far as the outcome, I can't really say, but I do think on that particular day that Renegades just played really well. They played their best game, they played their strategy to a T, and I think Sanguine played a little under their expectations. So my opinion is just going to be about who comes and brings their best game. You know how these teams are going to play. They should know how each other are going to play. So whoever comes and plays their game the best, I think, is who we should expect to win here.
We've gotten to talk a lot about the prep, I think, coming into this, and it's only fair that we give equal opportunity over to Sanguine now as we get to jump in. We actually have Rongyu ready for an interview, and this is the interesting thing, Rongyu. I mean, you guys looked really good the other day against Obey, so you already had a good showing to get your feet on the right start. You are going to be in an interesting match. Jake 408 the other day had a really, really interesting performance, brought out things like the tier, the Ares. How do you think this duo lane is going to go?
I think it's gonna be an interesting duo lane. I'm so excited to play. I don't wanna say something, but just excited to play.
Yeah, you're amped for the games again. We don't want you to reveal anything to it. You never know if the Renegades might be listening in here. You are a team that has dominated so much this year. I mean, you got first in Phase 1 against the Renegades specifically. I've said this a couple of times, but you were 5-0 in the regular season, and you guys lost at playoffs. What do you think that was? Was that just a bad day for you guys? Was it a good day for Renegades? And how are you going to stop that from happening here?
I think we didn't prepare as much we have for Worlds now, which is bad because we should have. But right now, I think we have more picks, we have more strats, and I think we should be able to bring some good games against Renegades.
Well, I know you guys are hungry. Again, last year, people were questioning whether or not you should be in the league. You've already proven, yes, you belong here, but I'm sure you guys are hoping to lift that trophy right over there when you get the opportunity. Thanks for your time, man. Good luck in your games. Hopefully things can go well for you. But again, I'm just hoping for some good Smite. Again, good luck, and thank you for stopping by. I think at the end of the day, what we're looking at right here is two teams that are at least from what I can tell, fully focused in this aggro. It feels like they are lasered in on what they need to do, and both of them seem focused inward, not outward. They don't necessarily care about what Renegades or Sanguine are doing. They're focusing on themselves instead.
Well, that's what most teams are going to say at this point, right?
Sure.
That's kind of the normal team talk you'll see. And to that degree, that both these teams are right. As Hurry was saying just a moment ago, if you come in and you execute your game plan, you're probably going to end up winning. So as long as you can really come in and not get thrown for a loop from a weird ban from the other team or get a little bit too worried in picks and bans about what they're picking, you just kind of come in with your strategy and you think to yourself, okay, what are gods? that the other team plays that could make our strategy a little bit harder to execute. Are we going late? We should probably ban Shinto's Hell. Are we trying to play a little bit more early game? We should probably ban Lazarus Ratatosker. Things like that, I think, are a little bit more important to solidify internally first, and then look at the external factors that could throw a wrench.
I'm happy you mentioned that because I think there's a lot of pocket picks here that we've talked about a lot, right? The tier that is something that we've talked a ton about when it comes down to Jake in the past because it's one of the first things he pulled out in the Pro League, and he did it the other day. The Apollo, the Achilles looked really good. Apwash is a question mark. That's literally, I just have Apwash with 2 question marks beside it written down. I think there's a lot about it. Herwind, I know you specifically have a lot of pocket picks. You're someone that has to deal with your Yanis getting banned. Is it maybe detrimental to Renegades to be going to these picks that they're more well known for?
Yeah, I think ultimately what it comes down to is, are you actually scared of those picks? Like, if they play the Opwash into a healer and they win, then the other team has to think, okay, this is actually a problem. This kind of, as Aggro was mentioning, this kind of destroys a little bit the strategy that we were going for. Now we might actually have to ban that. That kind of changes our picks and bans. Are they prepared to deal with that? Have they discussed the possibility of banning it? Those kind of things kind of come into play, and as long as everyone has everything accounted for, it really shouldn't be a problem. But some teams are kind of hard to account for. They have a lot of picks that can be problematic. Picks like the Hell, picks like the Opwash are great examples of that. So it'll be really curious to see how that ends up going in this set.
I'm also really interested because I think going back to Rongyu specifically and looking at this support matchup is going to be very important. Umoja, the first ban, not necessarily surprising, but that Ares being played, I've already mentioned the tier, but Ymir played all 3 games by Sanguine the other day, something Jake also likes to pull out. Aggro, is that something you expect to see today?
Absolutely. I think that's actually the most contested pick of this whole set is going to be that Ymir. Ymir has looked absolutely incredible. Basically every single game we've seen it. Yamoja got played a lot in yesterday's E-United, or the other day's E-United PK set. That was obviously looking very dominant, but I expect a lot of support focus in the way that these picks and bans are going because, like I said, I think this set is really going to be determined by how Duo plays.
Well, it's going to be that Yamoja I mentioned earlier, Serket, and the Cerberus banned away there by Renegades on the other side. That Ymir taking an appearance on Sanguine's side. Again, they're the ones that played it the other day so well. It's kind of surprising to see that. The Guan Yu, the Cupid, but leaving important things open. Notable that Persephone now locked in with Sanguine. They got it 2 times in their set versus Obey alongside this set, who I actually think, again, yeah, it's 75% ban rate. He's been banned 9 of the 12 total games played for this championship so far. This Apollo favored over it all. I mean, Herwind is Bera's Apollo. It is something legendary. Like, we've all seen it since the launch tournament, since before, like in the before times of SMITE. Is it worth first picking over Persephone set, though?
Yeah, I mean, it was pretty clear from our set that we didn't really value this pick, but it's just seeming to just overperform, I think, at this point. I think if, it's working for them and they're comfortable with the playstyle that it brings, I mean, it definitely is worth first picking, at least so far that we've seen.
And I love what Renegades are doing here. I mean, if your game is going to be played around Duo most of the time, getting yourself a strong character, #1 overall in that Apollo, but now you've picked 2 gods that camp Duo really, really well in the Morrigan and Ratatosker, because now you've got global ultimate on demand for the Morrigan, either with Apollo or for better gank potential, you have that Ratatosker ultimate. And then you still have the potential to turn into something like that set in a 1v1 situation or in a chase situation where that movement speed is going to turn out to be a little bit more impactful. I think Renegades have come in with a pretty solid game plan.
It's really weird to think about it, too, because with this draft, exactly the way you had just highlighted it, Apollo, Morrigan transforming either into Apollo or Ratatosker, and then the Ratatosker, I mean, is there an objective that's safe on the map? You have 2 people who can traverse it, 3 people that can traverse it so fast at any given time. I think unless they are gone, it's going to be difficult to try and secure yourselves like a Fury, a Fire Giant. Even if they back to base, you're not really guaranteed that space. Capri's going to end it out here for Sanguine in their top 3. Capri is someone that we talked a lot about. The wild cards, he just kind of skyrocketed alongside this Guan Yu. Herwind, having that second life available, not only from Capri, but having that little bit of time after your death with Persephone. This feels like a really good fight from the afterlife draft from Sanguine so far.
Yeah, I think when you take a look at Renegade's draft, you see that they have both their carries can go in already, and they have the rat, so you kind of know their game plan. You know they're going to be diving this game. And having the Persephone that even if you kill early in the fight, is going to contribute a lot with that passive, and having Kepri available to stop one person from being focused out early in the fight, I think is just a really heads up and prepared draft from Sanguine here. I think the Khepri and the Persephone are both like excellent picks into what Renegades are trying to do.
And I don't think that Khepri is one of those Guardians that concedes early game lane pressure. That's the big thing. You know, you can pick something like Geb to stop backline dive, but then you are toast in the lane phase. Khepri very strong in terms of kill potential, in terms of turnaround potential. Rising Dawn giving you some damage mitigation early on can help you survive some ganks. I like that look quite a bit. And I'm a little surprised by this Nike ban here from Renegades, because Nike feels like one of those gods that if I'm playing the Morrigan, I'm not happy to see any warrior on the other side, but at least Nike's a better transform situation for me. I think I would have gone with something like Arthur, knowing Yarkor's God Pool, but it looks like Sanguine might be putting this set in solo lane and allowing Erlong Shen to go over to Panatom.
Yeah, an interesting matchup. We don't get to see, well, I say we don't get to see a lot of Assassins over there, although just the other day, Variety actually played this Ratatosker solo, so maybe I'm going to have to skip over that. Maybe we start seeing Assassins over in the solo lane. You had mentioned the Nike ban. Heimdall, just to keep you updated, is the other ban there from Renegades. Over on Sanguine side, they focus down the support. They get rid of the Ares, they get rid of the Sobek, and yet Renegades still lock in this tier and an Ardio, so this isn't really interesting. Both tier and Ardio, I think Ardio is the one that can actually flex between the two, but tier, because it's Variety, because it's Jake, can swap between those. They get the Erlong Shin, the on her on the other side. Heroine, at least for Renegades, grabbing this tier Ardio, like it feels, at least Ardio-wise, maybe a little out of kilter, but otherwise, I'm looking at 4 signature picks for Renegades. Is this a scary draft?
Yeah, I mean, it is. I mean, Harry likes the RDO. You know, you've seen him play it sometimes before, so I'm not totally surprised that he picked it. It looks pretty good into the enemy draft. I mean, very good, to be honest. And I honestly just can't believe they got tier 4th pick here. I think it looks great versus the comp that they have already. And, you know, I can't imagine that an Ares ban was justified over this tier. We'll have to see if it ends up being an issue.
Yeah, I guess with the Erlong Shen being the ideal pick for Sanguine, they're really worried about that cripple, but Renegades end up getting a good cripple anyways in the form of this RDO. I mean, Hurry, I know you guys played a little bit of RDO in your setup against Pittsburgh Knights. Do you think this is a pick we'll see more of this whole week?
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. I think a lot of the focus right now is on pressure, and that character brings pressure in pretty much any lane it's played. And I think that the cripple is just particularly efficient into a lot of the meta picks right now, so I wouldn't be surprised if she gets picked up a lot more this weekend.
A lot of really fun things locked in for Renegades. Sanguine on the other side, though, they ended everything with that Erlong Shin and that On Her. In any other draft, yeah, you know, I guess if SSG were playing right now, I'd be talking about On Her and his potential as a mid laner, but Persephone's up there, so you can go ahead and assume that's going to be matching up against Apollo. And that's a matchup, at least one-on-one, that has, again, been happening for the history of SMITE, something that I think both of these players should be used to. How does that feel, Aggro, I think, in the duo lane?
It is a heavily on her favorite matchup, heavily, because Apollo just really can't handle whenever you throw up the pillar and you just lead with ult, because a lot of times he really needs to use that Serenade as an interrupt. You don't get that option whenever you just lead with Desert's Fury, and then if he dashes away, which he has to in the middle of that, then you just jump after him. You might not even need to use the pillar right away. You just walk at Apollo with that ult. The dash for Apollo did get sped up, so it makes the matchup a little bit better for him, but Netrioid's the quality of player that he's going to be able to track that dash pretty well.
So Hunter-specific matchup goes towards On Her, but when you start to factor in the supports, you know, assuming that the tier goes over there, or even if it's the Ardio, whichever you want to give or take, up against the Khepri, and Aggro, you had highlighted earlier, Khepri maybe not the best early game. He's much better than what you could have over there if you're trying to protect your teammates and things like Geb, but in comparison to, you know, your Emojis, and in this case maybe a tier, it's a little bit less pressure. Does the support factor, at least for you, Heroine, change the way that Hunter matchup could go? Can Bara kind of overcome the weakness of Apollo because he has a tier next to him?
Yeah, I think that Apollo is actually pretty strong early anyway. He's particularly strong level 1. I wouldn't be surprised if Renegades are walking at Sanguine level 1 and trying to stop them from even doing their buffs, just because their level 1 fight is pretty good. I think 1 through 5 you're going to see this tier kind of excel in the lane, and that means we might see some early purple buff invades, and once again they have this Ratatosker and this Morgan probably turning into Ratatosker transformation to enable that. So I want to see how Sanguine responds. And I want to see them put a lot of pressure on this duo lane early and stop the snowball from getting out of control, because that's where I think Renegades are going to be particularly strong this game.
Well, there's a lot of heavy fun and focus on that duo lane, and I think rightly so. I think the first couple of minutes are going to be oriented around that. But this Set and this Erlong are the other two that are maybe kind of questionable on the side of Sanguine, more so where are they going? Both can play jungle. Both can technically go over there into the solo lane if they would like to. Aggro, if you had to choose, if you were playing on this draft, do you have one you'd prefer in one role or the other?
I think I'd prefer Erlong in the jungle in set and solo. I mean, not everybody's Dimmy. We saw him take the Erlong back into the solo lane yesterday during the Old Guard match, and I was kind of thinking, man, we haven't seen Erlong solo in a long time. You just want the dude with the 3 best CCs in the game in all of your fights. It's pretty much that simple to me. I mean, he's got a ranged root, a knock-up, and a taunt. I want him in as many fights as I can get him.
Well, it's going to be an interesting one. I'm excited to see what these teams have to offer. Again, this is an important matchup. Each one of these trying to compete for their right to stay in here. But we've got Dolson, we've got Mifflin standing by to take us through the cast.
Into the main bracket we go. This hammer officially on the line. Dolson and Mifflin on the call. Doug working the spectator for us. Mifflin, expectations. There's a little bit extra in this matchup. Sanguine undefeated against the Renegades throughout the regular season this year. The Renegades beat Sanguine in 4 games in the Phase 2 playoffs. You think Sanguine have a bit of a chip on their shoulder coming into this one?
I think they have to, right? They've got a chip on their shoulder not only for that scenario, but also having to prove themselves a little bit. They've been talking a little bit of smack around the league, haven't they, Dave? They got to put up a shut up here, and I think Sanguine, this is a team that they really need to. They really need to get that energy behind them, and this is a strong start for the duo lane. Jake punished.
Whoa, and we figured this on her would have a good time in this duo lane. Jake already eats half of his HP, and as our eyes shift into this matchup, Miff, I think rightfully so, we immediately shift our eyes specifically to this duo lane. A lot of the conversations we had over the last couple of days around Jake, around Rongyu, some early pressure maybe from the on-her, Miff, but that tier can maybe supplement a little bit for the Renegades as well.
And call her when Nostradamus. How did he know that Jake was going to be running down the purple buff from literally second 0? But fortunately for Sanguine, a small rotation out of the mid lane creates just enough threat that the Renegades have to back up here. They have to get ready for the rest of the map. And still, Renegades haven't cleared their own purple. This might be a huge missed opportunity. If Sanguine finds some pressure, they can move in.
A small pause, Miff. So we'll pull on out of here just for a second. And as you kind of look into this duo lane and where things stand right here, you can see behind us 1 level lead already for Awesome Jake out of that lane. Do you expect a lot of fighting with the way that this lane is kind of built up over the first part here? Awesome Jake already put out a little bit of pressure, attempted small invade on that purple buff, some damage trade back and forth. Do you see the potential for some action, maybe some early kills just in the 2v2?
I think so, man. Sanguine has a draft around this on her where they're going to want to play aggressively almost constantly. The second he ticks over to level 3, gets 2 points into the impale, he's going to have ridiculous kill potential. But you can't count out the Renegades, right? The 408 on the signature tier. He's going to run it down. He's going to do it as much as he can. And if he's able to create that space and get a strong start for Barracuda, Apollo has the ability to outscale and out-rotate and on her.
Well, with how much emphasis we've put on the duo lane, very important, I think, as well, Miff, to look towards the jungle here in this matchup. Lasbra, Panatom, 2 guys pivotal to their team's regular season success. Lasbra, a lot of conversation around how his Phase 1 started off so hot. This guy was one of the best junglers in the league for a few weeks there, slowed down, cooled off as the rest of the Renegades did as well. What do you need to see out of Lasbra today to maybe get the Renegades a win?
I just want to see Lazarus playing confidently. I feel like we haven't seen that
Agreed.
throughout the entire week so far.
Agreed.
Once he gets that confidence behind him, he gets back to that signature level 2 cringe gank in the duo lane. I think that's when the Renegades are looking the best, when they have that core of aggression around their jungler to create the space so players like Ven can find ways to get involved much earlier on. I think this is an interesting draft and a good draft to find that strategy, because the Morgan transforming into a Ratatasker, I mean, what's scarier than a rat in the air? It's 2 of them.
Yeah, I guess double rat is double scary in that regard. Looking over at Sanguine, though, Panatom, I think, as well, probably carries a similar thread with him. You need to see a lot out of this guy, especially given the way that Sanguine have drafted here. Erlong Shen, pairing it with that set, that's going to be an important dynamic, I think, to follow through this game as well.
Yeah, I think Erlang, in particular, is going to want to get involved pre-5. I want to see him getting involved in whatever lane he can before Lazarus gets the ability, the ultimate, to create space on the map. I mean, Erlang Shen, you don't get much better early aggression than this guy, the additional dog as well for the damage.
Why not?
I mean, he could do it anywhere on the map. I would be surprised if we don't see him get involved.
Agreed. It's pivotal for both of these junglers early and often to find some extra pressure for the rest of their lanes, for the rest of the map, to get that ball rolling early, because both of these teams we've seen fantastic late game synergy around. Sanguine is really the one, though, Miff, I think that carries that extra tag with them. You look towards a team, you think late game team fight, late game coordination.
Sure do.
The name Sanguine just comes to mind. Some would argue that's cooled off, that's slowed down a little bit. Do you think this Sanguine team, if they get started early, are still one of the best to do it in the late game?
Look, we saw it earlier this week. Sanguine's got it in the late game.
They do.
But they used to have this stigma about them of, okay, they're really good in the late game. Are they going to make it to the late game?
Right.
Are they able to get through the early, through the mid? And so far, they're looking very strong in every single phase of the match. Still a little bit leaning their power ranking towards the late game.
Right.
And Renegades is a team historically that has struggled a little bit in the mid, has a decent late, but a very strong early. I think both of these squads have really evened out that power load. They've really come to their own fruition. They found compositions that are able to make up for the weaknesses of both of these drafts.
Right.
I'm expecting a very good game here.
Agreed. Absolutely. I can't wait to get back in and see the way things are going to unfold throughout the early part of this game. And I think that's an interesting point to kind of look at there. I think it's been hard for a lot of people to pin down the Renegades confidence-wise. And, you know, earlier on this weekend, we got to see them against Belt Slap. Did you really get a mindset, a look, as we are able to get back into game? Where'd your confidence level stand after a matchup like Belt Slap? I mean, how much data can you really take away from a matchup like that?
It's hard to say, right? Belt Slap playing on European ping, as well
Right.
as just having this very unorthodox playstyle when compared to the rest of the SPL. I'm sure the Renegades are feeling good no matter what. You're not going to come off a win feeling poorly, but I think this is the match. This set in particular is going to be a fantastic heat check for these guys. They need to prove it here that they can compete at the top level.
Variety, remember, he had slight struggles in his matchup against Belt Slap. There were a couple of solo kills there in that lane, and I remember one of my big takeaways in that matchup was that even though Variety had some struggles early on in that game, the Renegades were able to rally around him. Slight half-level lead over Yarkor at the minute where things stand. RDO versus Set, though, Mifflin, that's an interesting matchup. Hold that thought, though. Lasbro, level 3, won't be over to the duo lane, instead over to mid. Shinto left at half HP, no mana to stay alive. Luckily, the health was there. No kill just yet.
But he doesn't get the full wave clear, and this is a good start for the Renegades. This is a fantastic start for the Renegades. Double fearless.
Of course, Jake is going to hit those, and then Barracuda immediately in on the follow-up. But look
What?
at the root down, the damage there. Netrioid, first blood. Barracuda left running. He's now at half HP. Look towards the mid lane. No rotation there. That means Barracuda is out and alive, but Sanguine turned that one around.
I was going to talk about the small win of forcing Shinto back to base. Forget that. Sanguine flipped the script immediately, finding first blood, but it's only about 100 gold differential at this point. But shutting down Jake in the early game is huge. They love playing through this guy. They want him to find an early lead so he can rotate out and put pressure on the middle of the map without having to leech up that farm from Barracuda. Now, Jake's going to be stuck here for a lot longer.
And I think that's something the desk talked about a little bit, is how this tier is there, again, to supplement some of that early aggression. But this on her has that initial burst damage this early on in the game to turn something like that around. And I think Aggro makes a great point here, Miff. You look at this lane, you think of Kepri as kind of passive lane controller, but it's anything but. Jake pulled back in. Panatom no good on the 9 turns blessing. Jake will dash himself away, but immediately knocked up. Panatom in range. Netrioid second kill.
Sanguine, man. They are ready for Jake's shenanigans, aren't they?
Wow.
Get away from my purple buff, they scream, and he falls down for the second time. And that's huge for Sanguine. Renegades now are going to be stifled in the early aggression. We're going to have to worry about that early game from Apollo as well. We thought Tyr was going to be able to make up for that lack of aggression from the ADC. Well, is he really going to be able to do that from level 3? I don't think so.
Well, that's the question now, Miff, is Jake has gone in. This is what he wants to do, right? That's how Jake plays. How do you respond now? You're 4 minutes into the game number 1. You've been stuffed twice. You have 2 deaths. How do you respond in a lane like this? Can you continue doing what a tier wants to do?
You got to try. You can't give up, that's for sure. He has to find the aggression somewhere on the map. You don't pick the tier for the late game. You don't pick the tier for the team fight. You want him for that early aggression. So I think Jake, he's onto the right spot. He needs to find his aggression, even though he's fallen twice.
Yep.
I can't fault him, man. He's trying to make proactive plays, and it's exactly what I want to see from him.
Well, we'll get to take a deep breath here. 4 and some change minutes into this game. Already 2 kills. We knew the fireworks would be happening on the left-hand side of the map, and that's exactly where they started off. Panatom, small whiff on the ultimate. Doesn't matter. They're still in range. They're enough lockdown to find the second kill of the game. Quick pause. We will also take a quick pause. Quick break. We'll be back in a sec.
Well, hey, thanks for sticking with us through it, Smite fans. Barracuda was having some issues, but I think we helped get some of those sorted out, or while he's sorting those out, and we're catching right back up. We're getting back into the action. Aggro, we're going to chat for a little bit. I'm going to just go ahead and quote exactly what you said while we were watching that first few minutes of games, which was, oh, it's going to be that kind of Jake game, huh?
Yeah, it feels like sometimes, you know, you roll the dice with Jake, and the vast majority of the time, you're going to hit. You're going to do pretty well, but there is that chance that Jake's over-aggression comes back to bite him, and I think that this is a credit to the way that Sanguine came into these picks and bans. Erlong Shen, great at coming over and punishing someone who's being over-aggressive. Khepri on her, fantastic at those early fights. I mean, the first blood was a double fearless by Jake. Howard against the Apollo, which, as Herwin said, is usually very good, pre-5. How do you lose it? Well, we've got a Khepri and an on her, who are also very good at fighting pre-5. So far, Renegades have made some mistakes. The first blood I'm not too upset about if I'm Renegades. The second blood was an unnecessary death by Jake. And so now my concern isn't that, you know, Jake's going to start hard inting this game. You know, I don't think that's what's going to happen. I just want to make sure if I'm Renegades that Jake doesn't lose confidence from this beginning. Because like we were talking about for the Sanguine boys and for Lazarus, these are the biggest games of these players' careers. These guys haven't been in the league that long. Jake is a rookie this year. This is the biggest game he's ever played in, and he's starting out 0-2. So you want to make sure that he's not starting to feel down on himself, that he's going to start playing scared, because you're not playing tier support to be scared. You got to get in there.
Well, for the sake of the game, I hope he remembers the last time it was around that fire giant pit that he was really able to turn things around. But we got the game back. Let's go on over to the casters again.
Shaded Gore and Aggro, Dulcin and Myth, right on back, and right back into game we go. And Myth, we pick things back up, I think, right where the desk left off. Is a fantastic kind of jumping off point. How will Jake respond? First biggest game of his career. We'll get back to that in a moment. See how Lazarus and Variety are able to respond to this blue buff on this side of the map. But dropped by Panatom and Yarkor, so no blue buff invade this time.
It seems like a quick pivot from Jake already. He said dual lane pressure is not working. Catch me on the opposite side of the map. And if he is discouraged at all, he's not showing it already. Trying to hover around the enemy back camp, see if he can find something. But Rongyu doing a very good job keeping up with them. Jake, man, we got to find the aggression somewhere. It's got to come to him.
Yeah, time for this tier to start to make waves elsewhere on the map. Lazarus as well, remember, showed his head just briefly in the mid lane, but a slow start for this Ratatosker otherwise. Panatom, an attempted gang, well, actually successful, I suppose, an attempted ult that went just shy. Still got the kill onto Awesome Jake nonetheless. So now, Myth, when we start to tick on to this 5-6 minute mark, junglers, level 6, level 7, now's the time where Lazarus can start to make an impact.
He can, and we want to see him try and bail out Barracuda ever so slightly. You don't want Netrioid getting off to a 2-0 start in the duo lane in a matchup where he's already favored. So it's going to be up to Lazarus to get a little bailout for Barracuda over there, and already it looks like he's hovering.
Yeah, lurking close by through the Cosmos, able to close the gap very quickly. Panatom is here as well, both junglers on the left-hand side of the map. Neither has been spotted out by the other team. There is a deep Sanguine ward just outside of that Fury pit, so depending on the pathing that Lazarus takes, would be spotted. Neither jungler, though, attempting the gank here, so all remains quiet on the left-hand side of the map. Myth, There were some small skirmishes early on, just poking back and forth over there on the solo lane. We get to see Ardio every once in a while, but usually not in the solo.
Yeah, we don't. Ardio solo is interesting in that you don't really pick her to bully the lane. She's going to be able to hang out pretty easily. The sustain from in-combat healing's going to help her out a lot, but you want to keep your eyes on Variety's rotation paths. He's going to have huge impact inside these Gold Fury fights, or if you're able to make it into the 3v3, the cripple is going to be so hard to deal with for Sanguine. Panatom, Yarkor, Shinto, all going to be feeling that pressure.
Here's the good news, if we check back in with Jake and Barracuda over here on the left-hand side, is that level-wise, small discrepancy, of course, as you'd expect. I won't get a chance to finish that thought. Variety has gone in. 9 turns, blessing right back. Lasbra here to play. Panatom will dash away. The healing does not fall, but Venenu is here as well. Lasbra is out. Variety looking for the rootlet from range. Shinto hits Variety, and down he goes. Sanguine responding to the fight. Fantastic.
Sanguine's the best counterpunch team we got in this league, man. They're not going to bring the fight to you, but if you step into their territory, they'll absolutely be there in numbers. Shinto, fantastic rotation to turn that one around. And you'd expect Ratatasker twice to be able to find something there. And you can see the strategy from Renegades. It's very clear. They want nothing to do with Rongyu. That Scarab's Blessing is a tool they'll deal with in the late game, but for now, they want to fight as far away from him as possible. Unfortunate it hasn't worked out just yet.
We can't get 1 kill, much less 2 through a Scarab's Blessing. Let's fight on the opposite side of the map, say the Renegades. Now, you start to get in some troublesome waters. Renegades have not been able to find success on the left-hand side. They attempt to fight now over on the right-hand side of the map. And Miff, we're 8 minutes in. They find themselves 1k XP and 1k gold in the hole. So it's how the Renegades now start to respond over the next few minutes that can make or break this game.
It's going to be around Lazarus. It's going to be around Ven. You need these Ratatasker ultimates, plural, to work out if you want the Renegades to win out on one of these engagements. Keep your eyes on Panatom and keep your eyes on Rongyu if you're a Sanguine fan. They are going to be the pacemakers. They're going to choose where the fights can happen, where they can find these safe engagements, where the invades can happen. That's where all the aggression is going to be rooted from.
Lasbra just shy of having his ultimate back 3/4 of the way there. Maybe would have had an opportunity for a gank there on mid, but Rongyu was close by, so it would have been difficult to find that kill, of course, twice. We put some emphasis on Variety just prior to that fight. He kind of initiated, Variety did, things over there on the blue buff side of the map. What do you think about the way his build is starting to go here? A little extra power early on, Stone of Binding as well. What does that tell you?
It means to me that Renegades know that's where they want to fight. They want to fight around this Ardio, so he's going for a much quicker build instead of the more standard straight-up defense that you'd expect, especially into a matchup like Set, who's going to be able to bully if he's allowed to find himself a small lead, and already 1 level up in the solo lane, level disparity almost all the way across the map in favor of Sanguine. I think Renegades, they have to keep this strategy going. They've already itemized towards that early aggression. They have to keep trying for it.
I think on the flip side of the coin, though, it's also interesting to look at the way Yarkor is going with his build. Sometimes you see Set, especially in the solo lane, they like that Soul Eater early on in the build, stack up some of that anti-heal, a little power, a little penetration as well. Kadushia's shield, though, does that build path start to make some sense to you if you're looking apples to apples at both solo laners?
It feels to me like Yarkor knows that he's really not going to have the most kill potential possible in this lane, so instead, he's going to wait and be more bruiser-centric. He wants to rotate into the team fight and still be that front-line presence, even though he does select an assassin this time around. And it just fits Sanguine's style, right? We're not looking to fight in the early game. I mean, if you want to fight us, sure, we'll defend ourselves, but we want to play around that 25-minute mark.
Lasbra, you can only dodge so many plants. He dodges about 4 of them. And the last 2 chunk him down to half HP. Wild. You give Shinto Persephone. I mean, we've had conversations about this guy and all the different picks he can play. Jake has to dash his way away from the root from Rongyu. You wonder if Sanguine start to feel some confidence around this Gold Furies. A couple of kills in the back pocket of Netrioid means you can fight on this side of the map a little bit better. Panatom is there to play separator. Jake blinks off to the right. Grasp of Death just wide. Sanguine take down the Fury, but Barra, he's ulted in. Rongyu will Scarab's Blessing himself, and now Venenu has come to play. He's transformed on into the set now. Renegades on the board. Finally, big Fearless from Jake to re-engage. Lasbra slams on in a double kill for the Ratatasker. And now Yarkor is doing his best to chase down Ven, and he'll find 1.
Shinto on the retreat. No health, no mana, but he's going to step back forward. Variety not going to let that one go.
Underneath the tier 2 tower we go. Lasbra with 3. The jungler comes up big for the Renegades. It's a Fury to Sanguine, but 3 kills to RNG.
That's exactly what the Renegades needed to get back into this match. Gold Fury does go the way of Sanguine, but the gold equalizes. That 1,000 gold lead immediately cut down. Neutral objectives no longer available. except for the Pyromancer. And Barracuda, he's a veteran. He knows exactly where to go.
And I misspeak, it's 4 kills over to the Renegades, and now you're going to look towards the Pyromancer as well. Lazarus comes up big, 3 kills in the back pocket of this Ratatosker. You called it, Myth. You talk about Hurrywin being Nostradamus. It might be you here 11 minutes into the game, killing spree early on for Lazarus, and now he has the ability, all that extra gold, little extra experience in his back pocket to start to make a big difference.
And what a great time for Lazarus to show up for his team, right? We were worried that he's been having a quiet performance this week, but when Renegades are down and out, it felt like about 1,000 gold at 4 minutes. Lazarus there to make up for it. He's there with the help of Venenu as well. Fantastic rotation for both the jungler and mid laner from Renegades.
What do we think about the transformation there from Ven? We wondered what direction this Morgan would start to go in some of these fights. Ratatosker early on, we saw that transformation. Ven chose the set there in that fight. A little extra tankiness, maybe some burst helping out Renegades.
Yeah, I'm surprised that he has the patience to go for the set as well. He wasn't in the fight initially, so I'd expect him to maybe turn into Apollo, maybe turn into Ratatasker to close the gap. But Ven, a consummate professional, knows exactly what he needs, exactly what the team fight's going to go like. Renegades didn't want to steal the gold free. They knew that they couldn't get them off. They were keeping their eyes fully on the fight afterward, and Ven, perfect selection. Not only is Second allow you to stay in the fight longer, but also you find some slows and chase down potential as well. This guy's looking good on the Morgan.
Well, you know what's important, Myth, and you raise a great point there in that the gap close potential of this Renegades team is nearly second to none. You talk about semi-global with the Ratatosker, global with the Apollo, and then the ability for Venenu to choose one or the other to initiate some of these fights. It's going to be interesting for Sanguine. I'll hold my thoughts, see if Netroid will leap away. He sure will, but a purple buff invade is going to get answered by Sanguine. Barracuda ults on in. We'll see if a root, from Rongyu continues on this fight. It will not. You wonder, though, how that starts to play in the mental of Sanguine, where you realize you might have an initially good-looking fight, and then suddenly 2 or 3 members of the Renegades join from somewhere you didn't even expect.
Yeah, Sanguine can't think that they find a pick anywhere on the map, but Yarkor stepping forward, Variety with the bait, and the Persephone ultimate is just south.
Lazarus here as well. Stun, no good, but in the backline, Panatom has ulted down onto one. Variety procs off the FG. It's swinging a little bit onto the RDO. Venenu's taking a little bit too much damage, transforms back into his normal self, and he'll walk back on towards the mid lane. Small skirmishes. Could it impact this blue buff invade? Oh, Variety blinks in. Double stun. Yarkor disengaged. Panatom has as well. But Variety's looking for blood.
Variety's got no chill, man. He doesn't care at all. He's going to go into the tower just to be annoying, slowing down that back from Panatom, slowing down the farm as well. Yarkor going to get zoned off. It looks like the Renegades might be able to pick up a tower.
Barra takes a couple extra tower shots, unsure if he thought maybe Rongyu wasn't there. There will be a tower, though, on the right-hand side of the map. Could have been a lot worse had mid lane tier 1 tower also gone towards the Renegades. Instead, Barracuda's going to have to leave. There was some lane pressure exerted, though, by Netroid, left alone over there on the left-hand side, so that wave will start to crash. A little pressure starting to build on the left-hand side of the map for Sanguine.
Renegades, I think their next move is to group up and try and finish up that tier 1 tower. We got a minute until this Gold Fury respawns, and if the tower in mid is down for Sanguine, all of a sudden, they've got nowhere to retreat to. They can run to the duo lane maybe, but that's so hard to escape past, especially considering the chase down potential of this Renegades draft. I think they're in a very good spot to group up around this next gold.
You know who's worried about some chase down? Looks like Shinto here. Divine Ruin, first item. Sovereignty, second item after his boots. What does that tell you? I'm a little nervous maybe about this Ratatosker and this Apollo.
And it's the right decision, man. If he gets dunked by 1, dunked by 2, he's almost going to fall every single time. That Sovereignty is going to allow him to stay in these fights just a little bit longer. But it's going to take away so much from his damage potential. Now, Shinto, until he gets this Soul Reaver online, maybe another item as well, it's really just going to be a utility god. He's looking to root with the ultimate, and that's about it.
Whoa, Yarkor rotates to mid, grasping death, hits over onto Variety. Oh, but there's a second in the fight, one for each team. Taunt back in for Panatom, but he's been left alone here. Variety trying to chase down the Sanguine jungler, able to do so. Here comes Barra. Variety adds a kill for the Renegades, and now they'll disengage.
Calm the sky, police, Dave, because they are everywhere on the map. Sanguine has to know if they start a fight, the Renegades are going to be there in numbers every single time, but Sanguine with a strategy, they got Netriot on the Fury already, 50%, where are the Renegades?
And Desert Fury will get used to confirm. Silver lining over to Sanguine with the Fury being locked in. We are 16 minutes in, dead even in the gold department. Renegades have done well in fighting, Sanguine doing well and taking an objective off on the back foot. Big difference maker though, Miff, about 3,000 in the experience department.
And I don't know if you saw it, Dave, but the experience isn't where you'd expect it to be, especially from the start of this game. It's about a level and a half, nearly 2 in favor of Jake. This guy fell twice for first blood, but he's been farming so well on the map, finding aggression everywhere.
Yeah, Rookie might not do the way this guy's playing justice around the last few minutes of this game. Lazarus as well, big difference in the experience department, 2 levels up over Panatom. Panatom has been there, Miff. I mean, he's had some taunts in these fights. I don't know if they've all been consistently hitting, but it's not for a lack of trying. Panatom just hasn't found the same impact that Lazarus did, really, in that one fight. Big triple kill for Laz, really set him up.
I really think it comes down to, for Panatom, it's every time Lazarus engages, he's got Jake with him right there. But Rongyu isn't playing that signature aggressive style that we associate with him. The Ymirs, the Horus, the ability to go in, isn't quite there to the same extent on this Khepri, and Panatom's feeling a little bit of that punishment.
Awesome Jake lurking by, the Pyromancer here. Sanguine is as well. Fury taken down a couple minutes ago. 3.5 minutes till that one respawns. Mid lane, tier 1 tower for Sanguine, a stiff breeze away from going down, so Renegades could group up in that area. Risky fight, though, given how we've seen Sanguine rotate to some of these early objectives. I mean, this has just got to be frustrating, I think, if you're Sanguine. You think you've got a moment where you've set up a fantastic fight for your team, and then Barracuda jumps on in. 5 assists for Barra. Barra has affected 100% of the kills here. I mean, I don't know. That can't just be a warding issue. It can't just be a communication issue. You've got to have eyes all over the map, and wouldn't you guess it, Barra's here again. Netroid Aegis tanking up the tower is Barra, and now Barra adds a kill. Double taunt in, though, from Panatom, but have you brought death to your own doorstep? Panatom seems to agree, and he'll back away.
But look at the rotation path from Sanguine. It's so slow, and Variety cuts off the Khepri, so it's going to be Barracuda and Lazarus up against Panatom. This tower is going to go down for free.
What a rotation there from the Renegades as well. Everyone sweeps over to the left side of the map. The Globals are already here. It relies on good old footwork from the rest of the Renegades to get into position. Sanguine down a man for the next 20 seconds. Will show face around this tier 2 tower. No Fury to be fought over for the Renegades. They'll back away, 1 extra tower in tow.
The Renegades are controlling the map perfectly. Oh, you want to rotate over to duo? Yeah, I'll take the tier 1 in mid. Renegades are playing inside of Sanguine's jungle every single step of the way, but this might be a little bit dangerous. If Yarkor is able to catch out Variety, we're getting to the point in the match where one pick for either team could spell Fire Giant. It could spell a tier 2 tower just about anywhere on the map. Both teams are going to be playing much safer now that we're approaching that 20-minute mark.
Right, I said 16 minutes in, we're dead even. How the times have changed. 3-4 minutes later, we're now 3K, 3K gold in the lead for the Renegades. This team playing lights out in game number 1. In a game where we were concerned how their response would be. A couple minutes in, remember, you got to rewind the clock to 2, 3, 4 minutes in where Awesome Jake gets aggressive. Does not work out. The response, though, Mifflin, perfect from the Renegades.
But we can't count Sanguine out just yet.
Absolutely
These
not.
guys are waiting for that signature Sanguine timer. 25 minutes in is where they Voltron together as a 5-man group and look for whatever they can. We're already seeing the remnants of it start to establish itself for Sanguine, a 3-man grouping on the right side of the map. We've already got Shinto trying to hover around and make sure the Netroid isn't under too much pressure. I think Sanguine, only down 2,000 gold at the 20-minute mark. I don't think that's enough.
I agree. That's something Sanguine will probably take. We're gassing up the Renegades because of the way this game has turned around, but Sanguine so good at biding their time, waiting until that right moment to strike. I will say, though, Miff, one thing we were concerned, we wondered if the Renegades would have a hard time with, was this Khepri, was this Scarab's Blessing? Rongyu a couple of assists, but I would say Renegades haven't had that difficult of a time with it just yet.
I don't think we've seen a revive just yet, except for the one on himself.
One on himself, right?
And it's because the Renegades have been choosing their fights. Wherever Rongyu is, they don't want to be.
And now Rongyu is here. Jake blinks through, will be rooted down into place. Another pin over the wall from Panatom. Still, Pyro is aggroed here. Barracuda on the back foot. Renegades will take down the Pyromancer, and it looks like that's all they're looking for. Yet again, though, Netroid left alone on the left side of the map, so could finally be a tower falling for Sanguine.
But if he sticks around too long over there, if Netroid just even attacks that tower, you're going to get double Apollo ulted. I mean, he can't show himself, and that's why he doesn't stick around. He knows all 5 members of the Renegades are over there, but this is what he's worried about. Barracuda knew if he steps up to that tower, it's a free kill. What a heads-up play from Netroid, realizing that it's no longer an opportunity.
Smart play from Netroid. Really gives you a glimpse, though, of what playing against a potential double Apollo is like. They're on the other side of the map doing Pyromancer, and you've got to be concerned about taking the last half HP off this tower. That has got to be frustrating if you're Sanguine, but slowly working down some of these objectives. Look, tier 1 tower in the right lane, same can be said, half HP. Tier 1 tower on the left, half HP. That's some gold that will infuse back to Sanguine over the next few minutes if these types of pushes are able to continue. Gold Fury, this is a big one, Myth. Spawns, potential fight brewing.
Yeah, this is going to be very indicative of the next 5 minutes. If Renegades are able to run away with this Gold Fury, they're going to feel so empowered moving into the Fire Giant. And look at the space creation. Jake and Variety, an iron wall. Good luck getting in, Sanguine.
There's no contest at all over the FG. Not that Sanguine didn't want to, they just couldn't engage. But here comes Yarkor looking to turn the tables around. Sanguine still attempting to fight, but no fight will be had. Renegades, perfect placement of that front line. Take down the Fury and get out.
And that's still, we got a little display of what makes Artio so good on the disengage. Yarkor pops the ultimate, he tries to get involved. Well, I'm just going to roar at you, you're stunned, we're going to walk away. We already got the objective, there's nothing left to fight over. The Renegades are playing the map so well, and now it's about 4,000 gold in their favor at the 22-minute mark. Fire Giant Vision still favoring Sanguine ever so slightly. They've got the Sentry Ward on it. But look at the aggressive warding from Renegades. Every single one of their wards are placed on the Sanguine side of the jungle. These guys are looking to play aggressive, and it's a good look for them.
Renegades are building just shy of 1,000 gold a minute. We checked in 3 minutes ago, and it was a 2,000 gold lead. Renegades playing this game exactly how they see fit. Still have to mention that Sanguine have consistently, though they've fallen behind in gold, they've maintained some parity, I would argue, in levels. Yarkor has continued farming, building up some of that XP for himself. He's 2 levels ahead of Variety, so maybe this set, first one in the game, behind Barracuda to reach level 20, could be the difference maker.
I think it can be. Yarkor should be huge in these fights, and already you know he wants to stick to his targets, itemizing into that Frostbound Hammer as well as the Thorns. He said, Barracuda, your name, I want it. I'm going to strip it off your corpse, because that's who his target's going to be in every single one of these engagements. But I'm worried about it. I'm worried about this pace that the Renegades are setting right now, because this is the biggest lead that they're going to have. You only hit level 20 once. Lazarus 3 levels up on Panatom. Don't give Sanguine the opportunity to free farm. Don't give them the opportunity to catch up. Now's the time to group around Fire.
Yeah, Jake, 3 levels ahead of Rongyu as well. 3 members of the Renegades now reach level 20. Only 1 for Sanguine has been there. So diminishing returns in the XP department over the next few minutes, to be sure. Barracuda's going to continue pushing down the left-hand side. Venenu, Lazarus both hanging by as well. Jake will be able to spot out in mid-lane rotations from Rongyu and Yarkor on their way over. It's a tight grouping, one even line across that mini-map from Renegades.
Yeah, they're trying to keep Sanguine corralled every single spot on the map. Whichever lane Rongyu is in is likely going to be the Feint. Renegades do not want to fight around this guy. That's why we see this grouping on left with Lazarus and Barracuda. If Neteroid steps forward, he's got to be worried about the dive. The entire job of Renegades right now with Vision is to keep their eyes locked on this Khepri. Scarab's Blessing can be an absolute game changer.
Be a big turn in a lot of these fights. Shinto now has completed his build outside of selling off that Mage's Blessing, Soul Reaver, Obsidian Shards. We haven't seen the full power of this Persephone, not just yet. Top the player damage charts. That being said, Fire Giant looked at and started up here by the Renegades. Jake separating the 2 teams in behind Rongyu. The Scarab's Blessing, this one's important. Is he going to have to use it? Not for the time being. Good patience there from Rongyu. Fire Giant is reset. Renegades just trying to bait in a little bit.
What an insane flank that Jake's allowed to walk. I mean, it doesn't amount to much there, but he comes all the way around the backside, pathing essentially through Sanguine's speed buff. That's the creation of space that Renegades has. This is the threat that they have on the map, that Sanguine is allowing these paths to be walked by the Renegades. Unfortunately, that time around, we saw Ven path low to get out of the Fire Giant range, so there really wasn't any follow-up. But that's such an indicative match.
Whoa, Panatom, double taunting. That means double ult here for Shinto. Great fight for Sanguine if they can get Variety, which they cannot. Jake will knock back Sanguine, and he'll ult away. Are you kidding me? Sanguine thought they had a couple, and they leave empty-handed.
Was that a 4-man Fearless from the 408? Said, no, you're getting out of here alive. We're getting the Fire Giant. Sanguine's not getting a free one, but they do get the TKO, which should get them the tier 1 tower. A little bit of parity on the map, but keep your eyes on left. Lazarus, he's doing something.
Finally, it looks like this tier 2 tower over on the left-hand side is going to fall. Lazarus has the ability to ult out if he wants to keep going, but he will not. Sanguine lurking close by. It's the FG pit, but it's the Pyromancer that Sanguine have their eyes on, and they'll get this one somewhat safely. You have to be wary, though, of the collapse. This is where the Renegades can make you pay. Lazarus coming from the left. Jake will knock up Shinto, stunned in. Beads just a little bit late, but might keep Shinto alive for the time being. The Persephone will make it out alive. Can you say the same for Yark? Or you sure can. Oh, but Jake underneath the tier 2 tower. Scarab's Blessing finally makes its worth, but down comes Lazarus, and Shinto will take a tumble. Now it's Yarkor trying to spin the damage around. A double for Lazarus. Finally, Panatom is on the board.
Renegades still moving forward, though. Tier 2 tower be damned. We are stepping forward. Netrioid in some trouble.
And it's Jake who's leading the charge here. Renegades still storming forward. You got a tier 2 tower to worry about. So the Renegades will turn their eyes backwards. 2-for-1 trade. And the Renegades will be happy to get the tower at the end.
Clean play from the Renegades. They have Lazarus take out the tier 2 tower. The second Netrioid shows himself on the minion wave on the left side, that's when they gas pedal. To use Jake's favorite phrase, they hit the jets and they look for the fight, and they absolutely find it. 24 seconds left on the set. 15 seconds left on Persephone. They're going to be able to group up around this fire giant, and Sanguine should be taking the fight initially at a disadvantage.
What a difference 20 minutes makes, huh, for awesome Jake here. You were wondering how this game would turn out for him. 6 out of 8 is what he's participated in the kills department, and he is controlling everything in these fights. Variety there as well. Everyone on the front line of the Renegades providing space for the back line to operate, and the back line is doing great with the space that's been created. Primal Fury will be taken down for free, so you wonder, when you start to see a fire giant being looked at, might give the Renegades a little extra confidence. Jake, speaking of extra confidence, is going to get looked at here by Sanguine, but 4 versus 1, Jake will take those odds.
Jake picks up the Anchile almost exclusively to deal with this Kepri abduct. I mean, Rongyu can't have look at his face, he's angry about it. He goes for the abduct. That should have been a free kill for Sanguine, especially considering what's Jake doing there alone, but this itemization makes up for it so perfectly. Now the peel potential of Sanguine is going to be feeling that threat, and the Bruiser build that Jake's picking up as well. He's a threat in of himself. If he's able to create space and make contact with a Shinto, he might be able to do 50% of his HP bar on his own.
Well, Sanguine know where Jake is. It's right around the corner, and as such, they'll know where the Renegades are as a whole. Fire Giant started. Barracuda swinging. Plenty of damage in on the back line. Half HP. This is a big one. Both teams desperately needing a win here. Sanguine maybe a little bit more. Lazarus in on behind through the Cosmos. Spotted out by the ward. The Ratatosker, regardless of where he's seen, maybe providing a little bit of damage. Renegades want to slow play this one, though. Fire Giant is stalled for the time being.
Lazarus so disciplined there not to step forward whatsoever. He knows his job is to go up into the air once the fight starts up, so he doesn't get picked out. We saw Netrioid peel back completely, trying to pick him out himself, but didn't get the opportunity. The Renegades are playing very patiently around this Fire Giant. And keep in mind, they've already got a Primal Fury under their belts, so it's going to be that much easier for them to clear it out once they get the advantage around it. But Sanguine, this is the point in the game where they flourish most. 30 minutes in, this team fight focused comp, they still got the Scarab's Blessing available to them, and it's going to be much harder for Renegades to split up the map at this point. Sanguine's going to stay grouped as 5 almost always.
I suppose if there's anyone who is able to split things off in the map, it's Barracuda. I mean, Sanguine right now may be looking for a fight. Barra's going to have to ult over here if he wants to be in time. Variety this time, the one abducted Shinto there on the ult as well. Variety lived last time, but he won't this time. Jake up and over the wall thanks to the ultimate. Netrioid on the Desert Fury pours in the damage. Lazarus half HP. Barra lurking up in the skies, but he'll ult back down onto the left-hand side of the map. Sanguine find 1. You wonder how they now transfer that into map pressure.
Well, they're looking for the Fire Giant. It's going to be enhanced if they're able to get it, but Barracuda, uncontested on the opposite side of the map,
risky
should be able to strip away a Phoenix here. Sanguine seem like they're happy with that trade.
You know Jake is going to go in for this one. He's got to try at some point. Silence there. Lazarus close by, just shy on the timing. Lazarus dunks down, double stun. Sanguine corralled in between all of the Renegades here. Jake is going to get chased down by Yarkor. There's plenty of damage here to maybe get this kill. Barracuda, though, Mifflin, important to note, left Phoenix down.
Left Phoenix down, but no ultimate available. He's going to have to path very safely. Jake doing a good job
wasting time.
Distracting the Sanguine boys. Rongyu moving forward. Ven's around. If they chase too far, just the 2 of them, they might be able to get a return kill.
Yarkor desperate to get this kill onto Jake. Stun from Venenu. Transformation there as well. Yarkor, you thought you had one, but instead Barracuda turns it around.
An uncharacteristic misplay from the solo laner of Sanguine, losing out on the enhanced Fire Giant. That is going to be a huge boon to the boys in blue here. Renegades don't have to worry about Yarkor nearly as much. Essentially, that pit creates so much space for Barracuda to operate inside the team fight. Now, it doesn't really need to be split push Kuda. He can get in there and get involved from the rip.
And I think good news for Sanguine is that the Fury isn't on the map at the moment. 1 minute and 20 seconds left for that. Otherwise, the Renegades, with the one-man advantage, would have been able to push that one down. Instead, it's the enhanced Fire Giant base defense. You don't often hear about that, but that's where Sanguine are. Tier 2 tower in mid goes down. All Phoenixes exposed. Titan officially at its weakest point here. My favorite type of Fire Giant power play is one where I don't lose 1,800 gold immediately off the bat. Sanguine, though, their base defense, again, with this Fire Giant buff, could be a big turn in the game.
I don't see a world where the Renegades step up to the Phoenixes here. They've just got to wait 2.5 minutes and they don't have to worry about that enhanced Fire Giant. If they don't lose anything and instead defend themselves, they'll have such a huge advantage moving into the next fire for themselves. What is it, about 9,000 gold favoring the Renegades at this point? 32 minutes in. Gold starts to mean a little bit less as time goes on, but take a peek at Sanguine's builds. It's boots across the board. We're moving into true 6-slot territory for the Renegades. Sanguine, they're pretty far behind.
Well, Barracuda has 3,500 gold in hand, still boots in his slot there, so we'll get to see in a moment what he elects to do with his build. Look at his split push, though. Only one back in base. That's Panatom. Still a couple from Sanguine pushing down the left-hand side. Renegades as well, rotating through the Sanguine side of the jungle by the Sanguine speed buff here. Yarkor's all alone. Big 1v1 here. Panatom with the knockup. Panatom with the solo kill. What a way to start off a base defense.
The pre-beads from Panatom. You can't mess me off. And now Sanguine with the advantage. Exactly, Dave. They want a bird in return, and that's the best one to get. The one furthest away from the Fire Giant. Makes it so hard to defend.
I'm wondering what Sanguine's doing over here. They're betting that Panatom's able to win that 1v1, so now the Renegades all have to leave. If Barracuda had won that 1v1, how things would be different. Now it's the Renegades who have to be back on base defense. Panatom shredding through the Fury, but the fight, it's happening here. Double dunk from Double Rats. Venenu opens things up with a kill on Shinto, who's now playing from the graveyard. Rongyu attempting to root the enemy in place, but unable to do so. Aegis from Venenu keeps him alive, and now it's Variety trying to separate, but Sanguine, they're rallying in force. Massive pillar from Netrioid, double kill. Renegades, you thought you had it, but now it's Lazarus and Jake against the world.
Big grouping from Sanguine here. 4 strong, relatively healthy. We'll see where they decide to go with it. Only 2 from Renegades to defend. Sanguine moving into the base with a nice respawn from Barracuda. Maybe you got to back up here, Sanguine. This is dangerous.
Oh, we've seen this one before, and this is only game number 1. Are you kidding me? Lazarus, Jake, they've gone in. Barracuda's swinging from the back line. Scarab's blessing over on the Netrioid. Look at the Titan. Is Barra going to do it again? Double kill from the Renegades. Sanguine left running.
I can't believe it, Dave. Renegades hang on by a thread, and now they're in a position where they can look to end the game in return.
Are you kidding me?
4 seconds left on Shito, though. It's going to be up to him on the defense. No global ultimates available either. Renegades are going to walk the old-fashioned way all the way across the map.
What is it with these two teams and the propensity for ridiculous base defenses at the end of it? Renegades come up big. Once again, Barracuda perfectly timed respawn. He'll say it's calculated. Sanguine will say it's lucky, but now it's the left side Phoenix back and respawn for Sanguine, keeping things alive here. Barracuda, Jake, going to close this gap. I'm not sure Shinto can step far forward. Look at the respawns. 17 seconds is the closest one. Barracuda and Jake will dodge off the ultimate. It looks like left side Phoenix is all they look for.
Only 20 seconds left, 10 seconds on Rongyu. I like this call from the Renegades. The grouping was not quite strong enough to go for the end there, but instead, they should have an advantage moving into this Fire Giant, but with their base so low, the Titan so close to dead, they're going to have to hover around. If Sanguine make a concentrated effort, they might be able to end through the defense of Renegades.
Well, at this point, can the Renegades even take a fight inside of their own base? Do they have to fight out by those Phoenixes? I mean, they're probably at the point now where Sanguine can just walk in, focus the Titan, and win.
Yeah, I don't even think Phoenixes is far enough out for them to put up a defense with Heavenly Sprint available to Rongyu. If they show up a defense on the Phoenix itself, pop that sprint, run straight through them, head for the Titan, but instead, Sanguine, they know they've got the pressure, they know they've got the advantage. Instead, they want the Fire Giant one more time.
Full strength for both teams. No actives for Venenu. Beads 10 seconds away for the mid laner. Half HP on the Titan. Lazarus up in the sky. Sanguine are attempting to retreat. Will Lazarus dunk down and open things up? Sprint used. Barracuda hovering up above as well. The airstrikes will be held on to, and Fire Giant is reset.
Shinto used beads out of pure fear. You can smell it on him from
Vegas
here.
as
They're
well.
going to be down. Shinto, you got to hold on to those. Barracuda doesn't even dunk. That's a huge loss for Sanguine.
Yeah, massive. Now Renegades can re-engage onto the mid laner. Variety is going to be first through the door, taunted back in. The Ardio melts. Netrioid picks up the first kill. Now Sanguine, one-man advantage. Barracuda dashes away, looks for the Mez, and he'll survive.
But now Sanguine fall back to the Fire Giant. Enhanced still, but take a peek at Lazarus. He's been doing it all game. He wants to strip away the bird, but instead he gets Panatom in the base.
Venenu on the backside of the FG pit. Jake on the left-hand side. Lazarus on the other side. This is going to be a full-on collapse here from the Renegades. Look at Sanguine collapsed in upon Shinto. No actives, no chance. Barracuda comes up big. First kill for him. Lazarus adds another. Renegade starting to storm through the Sanguine roster.
Then still on the chase. You cannot ignore Barracuda in these fights. 10 uncontested auto attacks free cast into the backs of Sanguine as they run away. Now Shinto dead for 50 seconds. Netrioid the exact same. Renegades, that was not a fight they should win. Variety goes down for free at the beginning. Lazarus isn't even there for the fight, but Barracuda turns it around.
Miff, you and I got to do this for at least 2 more. This is ridiculous. We're starting off with a 37-minute barn burner between Renegades and Sanguine. We talked about diminishing returns on XP. We've reached that point a few moments ago. XP does not matter. You could argue gold less important at this point as well. Power pots, selling off those boots, still very important. And that's where Renegades have the advantage in this regard. Still a few boots remaining over on Sanguine's side.
Nearly 10,000 gold, but is this the first time the Renegades have been able to aggressively start the Fire Giant in a position where we think they can actually do it? Shinto and Netrioid still dead. Sanguine playing with fire, to play with words there a little bit by stepping up so far. If anyone gets picked here, that could just be the game.
You need a little comedic timing to cut through the tension here. Fire Giant not reset. Renegades lock down the objective. Yarkor stuns down onto a couple. Barracuda closing the gap. Scarab's Blessing times out. No kill just yet, but Venenu opens things up here. Watch out though. Renegades rooted back into place. Jake in the backline. Big knockups in the Renegades, turning around the damage. Barracuda left untouched. Jake trying to escape it now. Netrioid has rejoined the fray, much to his demise. Renegades find 2. Sanguine do as well.
Barracuda simply built different, still moving forward.
My God.
Gonna fall.
Watch out. Lazarus in the backline finds a stun, finds a double. Rongyu last alive. Renegades walk it down the right-hand side. They'll take game 1.
It doesn't look easy though, does it? You already said it. At
Variety.
least 2 more. But Rongyu gonna fall, but he picks up Lazarus in exchange, but not enough. Barracuda, full health on the Titan.
Disgusting game from Lazarus down the stretch. 10, 2, 9 on the jungler for the Renegades. Barracuda 6-1-12. Renegades come out swinging in quarterfinal number 1 here. The Titan will eventually fall, and it'll be the Renegades standing on top. Yarkor will respawn, so maybe I've spoken too soon here. We gotta buy just a little bit of time. Yarkor, could you do it again? The base defense maybe waiting just around the corner. Yarkor has gone in. Barracuda down to half HP. This is not a foregone conclusion. Variety still working down the Titan, not without its drama, but the Titan does fall.
Dave, I don't know, man. I thought for a second Yarkor was going to be able to do it. I thought maybe we would have been blessed by another elongated match, but goodness, man. Renegades, it was not easy. Sanguine put up a fantastic defense, and then is this just what they like to do against each other, trading Titan
I guess.
help?
Yeah, you and I we're going to need a little bit of a break here, I think, to regain ourselves. Thank God Renegades won, right? I mean, I'm talking while they're walking down the right-hand side that this game is over, and I'm forgetting Yarkor is back and respawning. Jake, big turnaround. Lazarus, massive in game 1, and if you're Renegades or Renegades fans, the guys who you needed to step up, you wanted to see more out of, stepped up big. Game 1 goes over the Renegades. Game 2, right after this.
Time goes ticking on.
Oh, a neat little bumper there with Gilgamesh and Tiamat showing up again. Announced yesterday, if you guys missed on it, 2 new gods that are going to be joining us on the Battlegrounds pretty soon this year. Of course, if you want to talk about that and more, these Pro League matches, that game, I mean, look, me and Finch are in the green room jumping up and down. We're yelling, we're enjoying it the way that we would just as if we were in the Cobb Energy Center right about now. Unfortunately, we're not able to do that, but you can still hang out with other SMITE fans by joining the Discord channel, our official Discord that comes through, hang out with other people, enjoy the games together, and relish in being fans together. I think that's the beauty of the World Championships, because we're all connected by one thing here, and it's the fact that we like watching good SMITE, and that game was a gift. As well as that, you know, we haven't gotten to show off a lot of this. No one is tweeting us right now. Hashtag SWC at home. Show us how you are watching your setup, if you're with pets, with family, how you are enjoying the World Championship wherever you're going to be. My name is Gormizer, and of course, joining me back for this one is going to be Aggro, as well as Herwind coming into this. Now, Hurry, I have gotten a couple of notes out of Aggro. It's been kind of difficult trying to pull it through. We were eating lunch as well as watching the game. But I want to know, like, what were your thoughts just that entire game? It was so fun to watch.
Yeah, I mean, it was really just a great game to watch. I mean, there's a lot of interesting things happening. I think Renegades looked like they're just kind of in control. Like, even when they lost fights, they kind of had a plan for what they wanted to do. They were splitting the map efficiently. They were not making the game easy to close out at all. Ooh. It kind of looked like towards the end there, when I would expect Sanguine to be, like, kind of the better team, it looked like they were kind of falling apart a little bit. Some kind of misuse actives, some kind of miscommunications on where people should be, how they should cover those split pushes. But overall, the game was really fun, really exciting, fast-paced. That's kind of what you'd expect from Renegades, and especially from the draft that they had.
On Aggro, there was a point, like, we sat down, and I was just like, all right, do you have anything specific you want me to touch on? You looked at me, and you just said all of it, like, just everything, all of it. So where is it? What breaks it down? I mean, I wrote down the first thing I noticed, that turnaround from Lazarus, that triple kill that the Renegades get early on that led into this point, was maybe the starting point for it, but how did they retain control, I should say, from that point forward?
Well, Lazarus was just having an absolute incredible game, and really, so everyone did on Renegades, let's be clear, but in particular, I was really impressed with what Bera, Ven, and Lazarus did in this game. And I know Jake was popping off on the tier, don't get me wrong, but the way that this backline really worked together in this game was unbelievable. Lazarus was just finding these angles in every single fight and putting so much pressure on those backliners, which is exactly what this draft is designed to do. Yeah. The man went 10-2-9 in, again, the biggest game of his career. And I've got to agree with Herwind. When you really hit the zone, the game just starts to slow down. You know, instead of abilities flying left and right, people blinking in, you don't know what's happening to you. When you're really in the zone, the game really slows down, and you're able to make the right calls. You're able to play around things like Kepriot a little bit better. In that one fight that we saw Renegades dive tier 2, they had complete understanding of what Sanguine's options were, how they could cover them, and how they could end up winning that team fight. And I thought that really illustrated well how in control of this game they were.
But even with all of that control, I mean, both of you highlighting it perfectly, that Renegades, you know, from that triple kill to what felt like the end, never really were down to Sanguine, but there's that one moment Barracuda gets soloed just outright over there by the right-hand Phoenix, doesn't use his shell. I'm flipping out. I'm like, Barra, no, you pop that shell, you take 2 more autos, you give 3 more in the process. Maybe he wins that one, but that opened the door. Herwind, you know, we've seen this countless times in this just year overall, a team going into the Titan room, just trying to siege it and unfortunately falling. It has happened to the best. You've been able to pull some crazy jukes out of your shoes with your team doing things like this as well. I mean, is that demoralizing to Sanguine? Does that like just take a gut punch to you, knowing that you were that close to stealing that game away?
Yeah, you definitely go back and you think to yourself that like you should have ended the game if like X or Y or Z didn't happen. It's one of those things, like, hopefully there's someone in their comms that is saying, you know, it's fine, like, we should have won that game easily, you know, it is what it is, it's just one game, we move on. I think there's a little bit of false confidence, you know, they still had that Capriel that didn't get used on Shinto earlier, so they're saying, oh, I can just Capriel Netroid and we'll be good, there's no way we don't end, and unfortunately it didn't go their way, but hopefully they're keeping their heads together after that.
Well, the teams are going to swap sides here as we get into picks and bans. Sanguine opting in for this first pick. Cupid's been a big ban, although I think at this point we have to focus in. The support bans last time, Aggro, they were very, very heavy-handed on the side of Sanguine. And is it worth trying to get some of those out of there sooner? Like, do you have to ban a tier here, or do you have to pick around it? How do you deal with Jake?
I think that they did a pretty good job of dealing with Jake early, but at some point, the good players, they just make you go, oh, okay, we're going to have trouble with this guy no matter what he picks. The Morrigan ban I like here from Sanguine, but at some point, I think you've got to start moving away from this Cupid and start prioritizing this Apollo. I've seen enough, dude. I've seen enough. Apollo, to me, looks like the most impactful hunter we've seen so far here this weekend, or whole week long. And I know Cupid got prioritized very heavily in the E-United PK set. Yeah. Clearly Sanguine think Cupid is better, but I think Renegades are going to continue to snap lock these two gods every single time they get them, unless they start getting taken away.
Well, I mean, last time they didn't even seem to care too much about giving this Persephone over. And Herwin, specifically from your experience, you know, Persephone is like the second most banned god in the league all year. Yamoja, the only person who's been banned more than her. This Morgan feels like a kind of, well, just counterpick, or counter ban, I should say, is respect to Venenu. But is this something that is easy to let through? I mean, Sanguine piloted, Shindo still looked pretty solid. Why are the Renegades willing to give that up?
Well, I think they just show that they can deal with it. I think that the way that they play when they're, you know, playing these like dive-oriented comps, Persephone kind of struggles throughout the game against those comps, even though she revives. You saw this last game, you know, he was dying pretty early in the fights. Even though he had his passive, he really wasn't doing as much as you'd like. So I just feel like that they feel that their comp deals well with this Persephone, and to be honest, it kind of looked like it did.
Aggro, now the bans that are coming through, Kepri taken away here by the Renegades. I'm looking over towards them. They've got 3/5 of the same squad. That's going to at least knock it down. The most they can do is an 80% similarity. But I'm kind of frightened. I mean, you know, what we just heard Herwin say perfectly, which is that Apollo, Ratatoskr, Sobek to an extent, a dive composition that is so solid for them. If you don't have that Capri-Res, it's even more difficult to get away from there. I mean, Renegades chased you under a tier 2 in right after the res came through. They didn't care about it. They kept going. I mean, is this going to take Sanguine down a peg? Like, is this going to make it even harder?
It certainly could, but I think that just based on what Renegades has done so far here this week, I look at this Sobek pick as almost certainly going to Variety. I mean, he is the solo lane Sobek player in the history of the SPL, and Sobek can fit in Jake's identity. It can be an aggressive support pick, but if I had to guess here for the Renegades, I'd say this is going solo, and if I'm Sanguine, then I have to really try and make an effort to get Yarkor ahead. Yarkor made a couple of really good plays in this game, but Renegades was team fighting so well that he wasn't able to make that same impact we normally see from him. I don't know if I want this set in his hands. I want Yarkor to be this big, frontlining, beefy frontliner, like something like a King Arthur or a Cucullin. Give him those tools, and I think that Renegades might not be able to play through that right side of the map nearly as well, because as Mifflin really highlighted well, Jake falls behind early, so Renegades start to transition their pressure onto the right-hand side, where RDO can actually be a recipient of that pressure. Sobek really can't. So if I'm Sanguine, I'm hoping that this Sobek is going solo, and I'm trying to pick something in the solo lane that I can use to abuse that pick.
Well, it was Cerberus, Chang'e, and Hell taken away there. A lot of healer focus, even though we haven't got to see a whole lot of them. And of course, right as I say that, Aphrodite immediately locked in by the Renegades. More than likely, well, not more than likely, absolutely going to Venenu. I don't think we're going to see a support Aphro today. Herwin, taking this into the mid lane, it does kind of detract, I think, your ability to deal damage, but you become this massive piece of your team. Having that ult, though, specifically, is that going to be the second chance? I mean, Renegades were already getting out of trouble every single team fight last time. Does this Aphrodite make them even safer?
Yeah, I mean, Aphrodite's a bit of an enabler, in my opinion. You know, you link don't think she has anyone. Oh wow, that's interesting pickup there. She just doesn't have anyone so far that she has a good link to. I expect them to pick a good link for this 5th pick. She likes to just link to someone who can blink in or dash in and engage in and get her 2 damage off really quickly and really early on a carry, and kind of puts your team ahead on the fight. And then of course you have that ult on your linked target to kind of like buy them time too. So I think she is a healer, but at the same time she's an enabler as well. So I expect her to link to this RDO now.
Now, this is the second time we've seen Sanguine lock in this Loki hurry. What are your thoughts on him and how he's doing so far? I mean, technically 100% win rate, but does he deserve that?
You know, I don't know if he necessarily deserves that. Obviously, it wasn't a pick that we valued. I do think the pick is slightly underrated in the Pro League, but I do think he doesn't really bring a lot of threat in the early game. You know, I wonder how this pick is going to perform when their buffs are under fire like they were the last game, because I feel like he kind of struggles around that point in the game. So I'm curious to see what their plan is with this pick.
Well, the lock-ins right after that aggro, we get the RDO. We have the Terra, though, there on Sanguine. Not something that I'm used to seeing. Realistically, I would say at all. I think Trix Tank is the one that I've seen play at most there for Belt Slap, and we didn't even get to see him so far this tournament. I mean, I guess looking at this, you get that RDO you would kind of ask for, Sobek going over towards Jake, so not necessarily Sanguine's best dream. But with this Loki, with this Terra in there, is that enough to change this draft in favor of Sanguine?
I mean, it's just instant team fight. I mean, all you have to do is press 4 as Terra, and you've done your job in a team fight, and this is a pick that you aren't going to get flung around with Sobek on the other side a whole lot, so I don't mind it here for Rongyu. I just don't know if Terra's in a position where she's really strong enough to compete at the top levels just as a base kit right now. The big thing that I'd be worried about here if I'm Renegades is that even though we have 3 picks that are exactly the same, the way this composition has to work is fundamentally different than their Game 1 composition. It was really centered around using Jake and Ven to get into that backline alongside Lazarus and Bera and Variety, but Aphrodite just can't do that. And as Hurry said, his best link target is RDO, and that's not exactly who I want to be linked to. Yeah. We're not going to be able to have that burst damage come late game to really be able to withstand being in a position where I can be linked to an RDO who's blinking in. You look at the way Lazarus played that last game as Ratatosker, he's either going to have to completely change the way he initiated every single fight, which he shouldn't, by the way, because he carried those games, or he's not going to be anywhere near this Aphrodite at any point. I'm concerned if I'm Renegades, because I think this Afro is so different than what we just saw them be so successful with. I don't know why they would change it. I thought they did a great job last game.
Well, and we don't get to talk about it too often, but like, you know, Apollo's going to have lifesteal. Sobek, it's small, but technically has some self-healing in there. Aphrodite is known as a healer, but RDO brings in some healing as well. We didn't really touch on that for the last game, but, you know, specifically, I guess Heroine here, is the healing on the side of Renegades enough to keep them feeling confident?
I mean, I know that they value this this healing a lot themselves. I feel like they are confident with it. You know, they picked it here, so they obviously are practiced on it. They're ready to pull it out and show what they can do with it. It is obviously a lot different, like Aggro mentioned. I don't know necessarily if it's to their strengths, especially when they don't have such a great link target for this Aphrodite. But I don't know. I'm excited to see how it goes. I don't necessarily think the Aphrodite pick is great here. I think it's good at getting people out of Persephone ult. I think that's where you'll see it getting the most value. But it's not great against this constant damage characters like Set, like Loki. So that'll be interesting. I'm curious to see what their plan is here with that pick.
I'm excited to see whether or not Sanguine can hold on to this. I mean, Loki having a 100% win rate, I was really hoping it was going to come through, be isolated, frozen in time, so I could say, hey, he wasn't played for 4 years straight, and then he showed up, played one game, won it, and he just kind of drops the mic and leaves on out of there. That being able to come through, it sounds, at least Aggro, from what I'm hearing from you and Hurry, that realistically Renegades are going to struggle more this game, definitely, than they did in Game 1. Is that a sign that they're not going to be able to win this? Was that first game just kind of luck? I mean, they even started it down and were able to turn it around because of Lazarus. Is that going to happen again?
I don't think so. I think that, I mean, Renegades played so well, and something that also impressed me was the way that whoever was doing their macro shot calling, just understanding how they want to play objectives and push towers and kind of imagining your players as chess pieces on the board. Whoever was doing that did a great job, and the whole team was buying in. So if they can play like that, I think even with how disconnected this composition is, they could still find a win.
Well, the Renegades have started this one a little bit on fire. They take game number 1, but game number 2 is more crucial than ever. Let's go down to Dulcin and Mifflin to take us through it.
Second to catch ourselves, take a deep breath before what hopefully is just as exciting of a game 2 as what we got there in game number 1. Mifflin, both teams sticking with some of what worked there in game number 1. Big concern, though, for the Renegades. Don't have the Morgan, don't have that triple dive potential that you had. Instead, you got an Afro this time.
But it's still double dive potential and an Aphrodite. I mean, you're not going to catch me sliding Aphrodite almost ever. The healing potential, the ability to force the fights, to back off from a range. It's a god that's very versatile, and Hurrywind already highlighted it, a fantastic facilitator, something that's going to be able to work with Awesome Jake, going to work with Variety to make sure they're able to find these good starts to the match. Keep in mind, Dave, game 1, Sanguine get a double kill first blood on a Jake. You can't rely on that every time.
Yeah, absolutely not. Jake on the Sobek this time around. We wondered if it would be solo Sobek or solo Ardio here. Variety going to stick with the Ardio. Great game there in game number 1. How does this lane look different to you with Jake on the Sobek instead of something like the tier?
I think it's going to be a little bit more calculated on the aggression. In game 1, we saw Jake just kind of W-keying wherever he wanted, but now he's not the exact same solo agent that he was. If he finds a pluck, he's going to need follow-up. But stripping away Netroid's beads at 1 minute, that's a good start.
Yeah, 1 pluck for 1 set of beads is something Jake will take every single day of the week. Now, Netroid got to be mindful of that. If he doesn't have his leap away, that's something you have to be concerned about as well. So definitely in a power position now are the Renegades over here on the left-hand side of the map. Sanguine, a little bit of a rotation from the mid lane, does get pinged out. Somebody on the Renegades knew that the mid laner and the jungler were missing. Instead, it's just going to be the Oracles, so no early ganks to the duo lane side of the map just yet.
Not just yet, but if anyone's going to be ganking the duo lane, it's going to be the King Lazarus. We know he likes those early duo ganks, and with no beads on the on-her, now's a very good time to start looking for it already. Jake getting aggressive in the lane, posturing like he's looking for that pluck.
Yeah, no purple buffs to invade just yet for the Renegades. Instead, take another early pause here in this one. Mifflin, at the end of the day, a better start. If we're going pause to pause, this is a better start for the Renegades. They're not a kill or two in the hole. We are getting word some slight internet issues for the Renegades at the team house. So that's something obviously they'll work through, and then we'll update you guys on that as we have more information. But Mifflin, now I kind of want to focus on Rongyu here as well, where both supports have now changed to different picks. I'd argue the Khepri didn't have as much value as Sanguine would hope for there in game number 1. Does this Terra make a big difference to you?
I don't know how you read my mind to know exactly what I wanted to talk about, Dave, but I think that Rongyu's kind of getting wasted a little bit on these picks. You don't think of Rongyu as this backline here. I'll find a revive. I'll hit you with my Earthern Fury so you can survive 1 bit of damage. No, Rongyu's the guy who's going to find a wall on fire giant and stiff arm Bobby so 2 more people can get the buff. 2 days ago, or find these multi-man freezes or get aggressive on the Horus teleporting around the map. The picks that we're seeing in this set against Renegades aren't really the aggressive style that I associate with them. And it feels like a missed opportunity, doesn't it?
We'll have to see how the Terra plays out throughout this game. Definitely not, again, a foregone conclusion here for Sanguine. It's bounce back time, though, and in bounce back time, Sanguine are again going to throw something interesting at the board. A pick that worked earlier on in the week for them was this Loki, 100% win rate through 1 game. Do you like them going to the Loki here in game 2?
I'm not a full Loki believer like Gore. I think that this god can certainly work out, and it's really got a very deceptively strong early game. I think Panatom should be looking constantly to make sure that Ben is under pressure, especially before that Undying Love comes online. But come late game, it's still a delayed stun from the ultimate. The blind isn't really all that disruptive either. I think Loki certainly has his niche, but it is just that. It's a niche, and we need to see Panatom exploit it.
Right. And Hurrywind, I think, even on the desk, expressed maybe slight concerns in the Loki's ability to defend some of these buffs. I mean, Renegades were pressure early often, even after dying a couple of times. So if we start to see that come to fruition in the first couple of minutes of the game, how are Sanguine able to respond? We are seeing it come to fruition. Small purple buff invade here for the Renegades. Rongyu and Netroid over on the left-hand side. Just the smalls taken away. Renegades, I suppose, happy with that, but big buff. If nothing else, Miff, it's going to get delayed until, well, the Renegades go back and get their own.
Yeah, small win's still a win. I'm sure the Renegades are happy with being able to strip away just a little bit of experience, but I think the decision to back up there is largely in part to what we're seeing on the screen right now. Lazarus hovering the opposite side of the map. It seems like maybe the strategy to camp out the soul lane isn't just something that the Renegades do to deal with the Khepri. Maybe they really are trying to play around Variety, play around Lazarus, and get those two able to rotate throughout the map much earlier on.
What do we think about Yarkor there in game 1? I mean, there were moments where the set joined in the fight, and that was a big turnaround moment for the Renegades. Remember, Yarkor was like, what, 2 levels up over Variety. you reached level 20 second after Barracuda did in game number 1 there. So Yarkor, I don't think you really hang all that much of what happened there in game 1 on him. You look for similar impact, maybe even more impact. What was your grade on the set from game 1?
I feel like Yarkor spent a little bit more time farming than the opposition. Variety was constantly blinking in, trying to find the stuns or rotating in mid, and that's why we saw him level up a little bit more quickly. I would even go as far to say the most impactful set play we saw in game 1 was from Venenu. This guy goes in and finds a double kill on it, so I want to see Yarkor leverage sets mid-game a little bit better. He is certainly strong in the late and has the ability to stick around in these fights, especially considering the bruiser build that we're seeing come through for him.
Wow.
But that mid-game is so oppressive, and you really want him involved in these fights around mid to make sure this Aphrodite doesn't get off to a good start.
Fight over here. Rongyu has to dash away. Jake, could you get the detonate? Oh, Barracuda ults on in, but now Jake is aggroed off the tower. Could be a 2-kill swing, though. Barracuda double kill. Renegades off to the races, and it gets worse in the mid lane.
Lazarus has to retreat a little bit, goes up into the air, but Panatom, he's low.
Lazarus looking to dunk back in. Beads early from Panatom. Spin to win. Yeah, baby. Renegades on the board with their 3rd kill.
Shinto just has to look on in horror as his jungler dies in front of him, and that's the healing from Ben. But be careful, Shinto wants a little bit more by the skin of his teeth, makes it out alive. Venenu in the jungle.
Miff, did you even for a moment consider we were in for a slower paced game than what we had in game 1? If you were, I'm second guessing that here immediately. Again, the action starts on the duo lane side of the map. We didn't get to see the initial burst engage that we saw there. All we know is Jake was lurking in the waters and Rongyu is half HP, and apparently that's all the Renegades need.
Look, Barracuda wouldn't be happy to hear me say this, but this is vintage Barracuda, man. This is 2012. Looks, he's playing the Apollo. He's finding these aggressive dunks into the tier 1 tower at the 4-minute mark, by the way. This is some of the most aggressive play I've seen from John Salter in the last 5 years, and his team is flourishing with this energy, man. I'm loving this duo lane.
1.5k gold is the way that translates. Remember, in game 1, we did not get parity like that until the 11-12 minute mark, so doubling the speed of game 1 here are the Renegades. Sanguine, of course, off to a bit of an early lead there in game 1, but now the Renegades able to match, change things around in kind. The Sanguine response, though, then becomes very important here because we've seen Sanguine at some points throughout the phase. They are fantastic, and this is absolutely a great skill that they have as a team at kind of slamming on those brakes, taking these very calculated engagements, not overextending for things that might not matter. Not that we're necessarily in that zone already. I mean, again, the gold lead is so small, but Sanguine know how to play from spots like this.
To run with your analogy, Dave, though, the brakes have been cut by this dive comp from the Renegades. How are you going to slam the brakes when Lazarus in the air hovering above your head, when Barracuda is doing the exact same thing? They jump down and have a heal. They're going to force the fight every single time.
That's right. That's a great way to put it there, Miff. The Sanguine might not even have the chance. They likely don't have the chance. That time, Jake is going to have to dash away, but you love the pressure that you see starting to build up over there if you're a Renegades fan, and that Jake just walks forward and immediately Sanguine have to find themselves on the back foot. Though it's an interesting kind of back and forth, I think, conversation to have where Barracuda and Jake, yeah, they're a level ahead, they have all this wave pressure. Does that not make them a little bit more susceptible to a Panatom gank?
They are susceptible, but it's still a Loki. He's going to have to rotate over with the ultimate available, so someone likely on the side of Sanguine, maybe Rongyu, is going to want to strip off the beads from Barracuda. Until then, I'm not sure how effective really this Loki gank can be, and it doesn't seem like Panatom wants to get involved in the early game. Has he been fighting in mid? Has he been fighting in the duo lane? No, he's been farming the map the entire time.
Red buff invade now for the Renegades. See the communication. Sanguine, they're going to be able to answer in kind, but little too late. Lazarus being chased down by Panatom. He'll dash away, and this was the fear. Again, now we're starting to see Hurrywin's words put into play by the Renegades. It's Loki, the Sanguine composition. Maybe not even so much because of the Loki, just the way the pressure has gone on this side of the map. Sanguine have had to forfeit now a couple of these buffs.
Terra and Loki together are so weak in the 3v3 as well. It really is going to come down to Shinto carrying the fight if the fight does erupt in mid. And I think Renegades are doing a very good job of keeping Sanguine split up. They've got the lead in the dual lane, so that's where they're keeping Jake. They want to keep the pressure going and winning where they have been. I like this strategy for them. Leave the soul laners on an island. Variety doesn't need help on this RDO. Instead, do exactly this. Bully Netrioid into the dirt.
And Variety is going to start off his build the same exact way as he did last time. Why change it when game 1 went so well in your favor? It's Lazarus now. Again, it's similar conversations because it's literally the exact same pick. Lazarus has some early pressure now on this Ratatosker pick. You wonder where he starts to place that on the map. It's another set of beads burned. Maybe that answers our question. Netrioid down a set of beads, maybe becomes a prime target for a Lazarus gank.
It does, but now we have to be worried that Jake uses the blink in exchange. It's a fantastic trade for the support. 408 certainly happy with how that one goes, but we want to see Lazarus get involved much sooner now. This is the second time that the beats have been stripped off, and Lazarus hasn't quite rotated over to this lane. But we know exactly what it's going to look like when he does come. Ratatosker in the air, Barracuda doing the exact same thing. First dunk, force the jump. Second dunk, get the kill.
Panatom making his way over to the solo lane. Lazarus here as well through the Cosmos. Big dunk over on the Yarkor. Variety deletes Panatom. Are you kidding me? Yarkor will walk his way away. There's the Lazarus pressure.
Panatom looking nervous on this Loki pick. Misses the ultimate by a literal mile that time around and then instantly punished. That one's not going to sit too well on the mental for Sanguine's jungler. And now the Renegades moving into the enemy camps. Barracuda, he's ready.
Oh, and he wants to dunk down onto Netrioid. Netrioid has to leap away, and Barracuda steals the purple. Bad to worse for the Sanguine duo lane. And hey, red buff. That one's back off of cooldown. Renegades, they'll take that one to go as well. Sanguine, now double buffs have been forfeited.
I was wondering when I was going to get the opportunity to say it, but one invade makes not for a lead. The lead's already there, which is what you're going to do with the timer. Red buff, purple buff. Now the Renegades have the onus of being there on cooldown and continually stripping away that farm. But if Barracuda's just going to dunk on purple and steal it every time, what are you going to do about that?
Well, that's the question. Can Sanguine do anything about it here at this point? I mean, they've fallen 2,000 or so gold behind. 2,500 is the way the graph looked a moment ago. Is there anything Sanguine could do? Jake is the same level as Netrioid here. Rongyu a level behind them. Barracuda is 2 levels up over Netrioid. Can you defend this side of the map at all? Becomes the big question. Panatom working close by, so I'll hold just for a moment longer. Rongyu goes in, roots down onto one. Terra ultimate used this time. Jake lurking in the waters. Not enough damage just yet. Is Jake gonna survive? Panatom says no way. In he goes, but now Barracuda a chance to turn around to kill.
But look in the jungle. Lazarus finally making his rotation over. No ultimate available, so it's going to be a slow walk. I think Sanguine may have gotten away with a kill here.
Great collapse there from Sanguine, finally getting another kill on the board. Desert Fury flies on through. Barracuda gets most of it. Oh, Grasp of Death goes wide. Renegades live to fight another day. Now Lazarus up in the skies. Who does he want? He wants Netrioid. He wants Panatom. Both get out alive, but Variety, he's rotated over as well. Tier 1 tower at half HP. Renegades aren't concerned. Another kill in their pocket.
And that's a fight that Sanguine shows. They jump in there. Netrioid engages that one, and then the Persephone ultimate wide. The Impale wide as well. And what are Renegades going to do with this time? They're going to pick up a gold tree. Yarkor, on the other hand, not willing to let it go down for free, gets a tier 1 tower on the solo side of the map.
Biff, are you starting to get shades of game 1 here? Look at the rotations now that have come out from the Renegades. It's effectively been the same setup that we saw in game 1. Somebody sets something up, you bait Sanguine in thinking you've got this great fight. Sanguine did find a pick early on, don't forget. But Jake is happy with that, with the way the rest of things played out. It's again, the dunk from Lazarus, the dunk from Barracuda, the ability to close that gap has just paid off.
I'm getting shades of it, but whatever the opposite of a director's cut is, this
I sure
expedited version, the 1.5 times speed, because already 12 minutes in, 4,000 gold in the lead are the Renegades.
Jake won't look for the pluck here. Panatom did have his beads. Shinto does not. So it would have likely been an awkward spot there for Jake. Lazarus has been all over the place here this game. You can tell he's starting to like the way things are flowing for the Renegades. Even the small invades. We've put a lot of focus on purple and red buff, but we've seen Jake invade the right-hand side of the map, back by the speed buff. Those back camps as well. Just been taken away from Panatom. 2-level difference, Myth, out of the jungle here. This is the way Sanguine, though, can find their way back.
Yeah, a little Pyromancer to keep them topped up just ever so slightly, but it's not going to be enough on its own. That's barely making a cut into the lead that Renegades have. And where is that lead really? It's about 2.5 levels for Barracuda, a couple levels in the jungle as well. Somehow Jake, who I think hasn't farmed a wave in the last 3 minutes, he's just going, bouncing around the map, trying to find somewhere to invade to find his farm, has also maintained a lead. And who hasn't had any pressure put on him the entire match?
Oh, no.
It's Ven.
Oh, Barracuda is going to put a little pressure onto Netrioid here. Mez just shy of catching out the leap. And Netrioid will survive, live to fight another day. Jake has blinked off to the left. He wants to dive underneath this tier 1 tower. Panatom is being pinged out here. Not enough legs on the ultimate from Lazarus, so maybe that's the way you answer this composition, is you just run away, but you're forfeiting a tier 1 tower.
Netroid gets that back off just in time to get out of that situation, but the tower left undefended. Finally, some defense from the Sanguine, rather, but too little, too late. And what is Lazarus doing the entire time? That purple buff, that's the 3rd time in a row going this way of Renegades.
Yeah, 1.5k becomes nearly 4,000 in the lead for the Renegades. Call it 3.5 in the last couple of minutes. Fury not there. 2.5 minutes left on that one. That would have been a big objective for the Renegades to turn around, start to turn their eyes towards. You got to wonder, though, is this Apollo pick, we saw it out of the jungle pretty, I wouldn't say consistently, but when we did see the Apollo, it was out of the jungle. You wonder if this is maybe a pick where if you can get him an early lead, just the way that kid is built, maybe some of the highest potential for starting to snowball a lead on your own.
It feels like it, doesn't it? Just the ability to rotate throughout the map, constantly be where your team needs you to be. And Barracuda is certainly feeling confident. Take a peek at his build, going immediately into the Berserker shield as well as the shell. My man is looking to get aggressive constantly. It doesn't matter if he's the first one into the fight. He's got a little bit of tankiness under his belt.
That's right. We've seen Barracuda build this way when he's played this Apollo pick, so definitely confident. Maybe that's an indicator of how he tends to be playing when he's on this pick. It's a confident build for a guy who tends to feel confident when this pick is in his corner. Netroid gonna try to freeze the wave. That's where we're at, Miff. Netroid does not feel safe enough farming anywhere out in lane that he's got to slow down his own wave to farm further back.
I mean, he has to. No tier 1 tower to hide under. Barracuda would certainly take a fight in the center of the map. Rongyu has to hover as well. And this is an interesting decision from Barra. He realizes, okay, my minion wave is stacked up a little bit too far, so I'm going to push as far forward as I can, immediately get back to base, and regroup with my team. 1 minute left on the Fury respawn. That's going to be where Renegades bring the fight to Sanguine.
That's right, and Renegades are going to start to group up near this mid lane, tier 1 tower. Awesome Jake has picked up the Stone of Binding. Variety has as well, so you start to get the mindset and how it might be similar, whether Jake's on the tier or on this Sobek, especially from Variety as well. We're going to apply the CC. I mean, it's very cut and dry. Apply the CC, do extra damage for the rest of our team.
It's a good look for him, and already Variety showing that he wants to get even more damage online. Instead of going that traditional, just raw defense item that you would expect, he picks up the Void Stone. He wants to be able to be that threat in the backline on his own, almost acting as a solo agent. Shinto in particular is going to be feeling that threat. The ability to cripple him out means that Persephone is going to be stuck there. You don't want to be stuck with the enemy soul laner. I'm sure Aggro's been ranting about that one just plenty. Renegades are in such a good position now, 4,000 gold in the lead, that where the Sanguine squad really going to try and put up this defense? Do they want to take a fight around this gold free? I'm not sure that's one that I would favor them in, especially considering the ability to rotate from Apollo, from the Red Tasker as well on the side of the Renegades. I think, if anything, they might potentially try and split push a mid tower, or even go to the Pyromancer when that spawns.
Well, in game 1, that's where we saw Sanguine start to make some strides, start to make their way back into the game. Remember, Sanguine nearly won the game on a Titan Siege. Barracuda respawned, pulled a little magic out of his hat there and turned the game around. Gave Renegades a good chance to win. We'll return to that thought in a moment. Oni Fury started up.
Nice
Variety eats the Persephone ultimate. Yarkor is here to play as well. Oni is reset. First big team fight here. Lazarus dunks on down onto Yarkor. Here comes Barra, though, down into the back line. He drops. Netroid being melted away here as well. Barracuda dashes in on the Apollo. This guy's feeling confident, or what? Another kill over to Barra. Venenu adds one as well. It's a double for the Apollo. Renegades all but sweep Sanguine.
And Shinto, the last one on the menu, but you're certainly on it. He's got to take the fight up against Jake and Lazarus on his own. But where are the rest of Renegades going? They've got bigger fish to fry. Fire Giant at 17 minutes? Are you kidding me? Where's this Renegades been all year?
On the back of a Deicide, you better start up an FG 17.5 minutes in. Renegades playing like a team possessed here today. 1.5 games in, and they are about to blow this one wide open with this Fire Giant. You got enough sustain on this Aphrodite that it just makes sense. Barracuda's doing plenty of damage, about as free as they come here with this one. And Mifflin, you can't look too far forward here, especially with the way that these two teams have played up against one another. Nearly back-breaking, though, 18 minutes in.
It's so rough. And just to rewind it a little bit, Dave, and think about that fight. Where was Panatom? What happened with Panatom? He dunked into the back with the Loki ultimate, makes contact with Ven. Ven shrugged him off, said, "Get off me, man!" And they just surge forward as an entire team. Panatom essentially just gets stampeded by the Renegades. This Loki pick is not working out.
Remember early on the desk today in the pregame show, something Aggro Gore and I talked about was the concern around Sanguine and their ability to pick and ban around the creative strategies that the Renegades at least showed in their game, in their set rather, up against Belt Slap. The strategy is clear, right? I mean, they've changed a couple pieces here and there, but we want a Ratatosker dunk, we want an Apollo dunk, and we want tanky enough front lines to buy time until they're able to do so. I mean, if you're really looking on into Game 3, again, still very early, 19 minutes in, if you're starting to look on to Game 3, needs to be some serious pivots.
I think the pivot's pretty clear. Don't let Barracuda have Apollo. This man is looking amazing on this pick, almost single-handedly winning some of these team fights. Take it away from him. He's looking too good right now. Fire Giant, Pyromancer, Gold Fury, Tier 2 Tower on the left-hand side, all going the way of Renegades. 11,000 gold, 19 minutes in, and I don't think they're done just yet. They have a lot of gold in their pocket to spend, but why do it, man? These guys are looking so good in the fight.
Yeah, and Oni Wave starting to work forward. Sanguine want to take the fight right here, right now. Yarkor's the first one in. Shinto sends his ult flying, but it's B's used by the Renegades. There is just not enough damage. Renegades turning around plenty. Barracuda, another double kill. Renegades finding the fight. Could this one be a game ender, though? Netroid has to leap away. Lazarus adds one as well. It's going to be another deicide. 19 and some change in.
This is ridiculous, Dave. Barracuda is making a world's run in 2021. Sanguine, they do everything right there. They hit every single ability. Netroid hits every spear on 3 separate targets, but it does not matter. The healing from Ben is just too much.
Fire Giant buff, 5 strong for the Renegades. Not much drama this time around. Renegades work their way down the mid lane. They will win Game 2. And Myth, I don't know if you call it against all odds. I don't know what you call it. Renegades are on set point already.
Look, it's easy to call it. That's a stomp, Dave. That's all it was. They made short work of Sanguine in the second game. Ridiculous. These guys came in with so much energy, talking smack on Twitter, talking smack on Twitch, and now Renegades are here kind of making them look like clowns, huh?
All right, so we weren't overextending and talking about Game 3 about a minute and a half ago. I'm wondering if there's some base defense, something exciting. Then you have to wonder, Myth. I actually maybe just thought of a quick thought here. Surprised that Sanguine took that fight in the mid lane. They weren't even under their Phoenix line, and they forced that fight.
I think they saw 2 members isolated on the side of Renegades and then said, we got to do it. We got to do it. But you're exactly right, Dave. We got the aerial view. How are you going to take 2 members isolated when every single member of the Renegades has at least a semi-global? They're going to be there. And they came in numbers.
Yeah, screen behind us pretty much tells the story here. Renegades, they're up 2-0 in this set. We'll take a quick break. Back for Game 3.
I'm sure all the Renegades fans out there right now are ecstatic with the way game number 2 went. Game 1 had some close calls, but game 2, not even. It did just kind of hop, skip, and a jump for them to get to that Titan room and take that one down. Welcome back, everyone, to the SMITE World Championship. My name is Gormizer, and you heard my plea, my call for help. Some of you reached out to us on Twitter using the hashtag SWC at home to tell us how you were watching as you were enjoying these games. And that's the right way to enjoy it. A nice Wonder Woman mug, a nice Darth Vader there on the left, and of course, being able to spread the love with your children to watch some Smite. I hope they're enjoying it just as much as you all are. Of course, the furry children as well, the pets out there of the world that come through. I'm sure Bellini and Lala are watching at home with their mom right now. I'm sure Mac is maybe hiding more broccoli, maybe not paying attention. We'll have to figure that out. As we actually get to see it, yeah, holding up there, a nice full-on kit. So many screens paying attention to us there from Awesome King. That is the way to do it. If you're stuck at home, that's how you do it.
Listen, had the hashtag RNG fam feeling pretty happy after how the Renegades are doing.
Yeah.
That's for sure. Very, very impressive stuff from them in that one.
Just being able to come through. Again, you can tweet at us using hashtag SWC at home, and you're going to be able to get featured on the broadcast as you come through, so you can show us how you are watching, who you're watching with, all that good stuff. But right now, we have to break down what just happened. That one was a little bit faster, at least it feels like it was, that comes through. We've got Heroin and Aggro on the desk with me once again, and I'm actually going to jump to you, Heroin, first, because speaking of Twitter, you had tweeted out in the middle of that one saying that Sanguine didn't seem like a team that should be susceptible to nerves, but they are. I mean, how do you tell that they're nervous here?
I mean, I think the biggest indicator is the active usage and kind of the sloppy desperation plays that you see out of Sanguine, which is really just kind of the opposite of what I would expect personally from those guys. They're usually pretty calm and collected. They make pretty clean team plays. I think they have really good understanding of how the game works. But it's kind of looking like they're just falling a little bit apart here. I don't know. Like Shinto especially, I consider to be one of the better mechanical players in the league, pressing his Aegis when the rat's above in the air. And then even after that, pressing the beads, it's just like 2 times off the mark. There's just something going on here that we're not seeing. I also think the draft is a problem. I'm sure you guys get to that too. But yeah, I'm not really sure what's going on. I wish I knew.
Well, I actually am happy you mentioned Shinto, because I wanted to ask you specifically this. You play a lot of Yanis. You hit some of these ults on something that moves impossibly slow, and you can do it from far away. But we have seen so many Persephone ults, it feels like, not really hitting the mark so far. I mean, Shinto's only 0-2 and 0 here. Not the worst slash line, but granted, the way the rest of the game went, he didn't really have the opportunity to die more often, I guess, with the rest of his team. But how do you maybe take this Persephone and turn her into something more? How difficult is it really to hit these ults in a competitive game?
Well, I think Persephone is like a rare case, right? Because as long as you should just aim so that even if you miss, it's going to hit a wall and it's still going to have big impact in the fight. But they were kind of fighting in the duo lane, and I think that's like not ideal for Persephone a bit, because she kind of has to make a choice if she wants to try to hit someone or try to hit the wall and get less than ideal ultimate. So it was a little bit where they were fighting. I think they kept getting dragged over to the duo lane where they didn't feel strong, and he probably felt like a little desperate, like he had to come over there and make that difference. So I think those ults are a little harder to hit than they look. I do think, you know, he should be getting more value out of those ults than he is, but I think it has a lot to do with where they're having to play the map.
Take a look at these player damage numbers here, Gore. I mean, 10,000 player healing.
It's a lot.
That completely eliminates the damage from Yarkor and Panatom, or takes out the top damage dealer in Shinto. I mean, it's just absurd what Ven was able to do on this game, and we were talking on the desk about how concerned we were about this Aphrodite pick, finding value with their composition. But when Sanguine's going to play with the style that they did, which, talking about what Hurry's saying, I completely agree that nerves are clearly a factor for this team. Uncharacteristically sloppy. Their engages are all over the place. Aphrodite is great against compositions and teams that aren't working cohesively as a unit, and that's certainly the case. If I don't see a Cupid, or if I see a Cupid ban here instead of an Apollo ban, my lord, I don't know how. I don't know how you get gunned down in duo lane both of these 2 games, and you stick with banning Cupid. I get that your pre-Worlds prep is super important, and these are the very difficult moments where months and months and months of practice have led you to a point where you think Cupid is the best hunter in the game. Clearly Sanguine think that based on their picks and bans. but Apollo has been dominant, not just in this set, but in other sets as well. Unless Sanguine's willing to first pick it here, which I'm not sure that they are, it looks like Barra might get it again.
Well, there's one shift that we had wanted to see. At least the casters, when they decided to walk out of here, as we were walking by, we were chatting a little bit about the game and the break, and we were talking about a little bit of changes that might need to happen here for Sanguine. Cupid Morrigan, Ratatosker, at least. That last ban was something everyone was saying must happen to make this team come through. Ymir, Serket, Yamoja, again, bans for Renegades, not too surprising. But they actually swing things around, maybe calling the bluff, expecting that maybe Sanguine don't want to go for this Apollo. Ra and Rom, that's going to be confusing. Good luck on the cast with that one coming through. The snipes from both aspects there. Shinto and Netroid locked in for Sanguine alongside this Kepri, which I'm going to get to in a second. Guan Yu set on the other side. Apollo aside, I want to talk about this Kepri, played in Game 1, played now in Game 3 here for Sanguine. The Terra. When I looked at the picks for Sanguine, the ones that have been most successful, Horus, which likes to fight a little bit, you know, scrap a little bit, and the Hercules, more lately, has been big for them. Heroin, you've played against them. Aren't they just historically a little bit better when Rongyu's allowed to be aggressive?
Yeah, no, that's definitely the case, you know, on the Horus and the Hercules. I think that's when they had their big, like, highlights throughout the year. That's when they were looking the strongest. So it is definitely a bit curious to see Ronnie play these things like the Kepri. Like, Aggro did mention again, it probably has a lot to do with their, like, pre-Worlds prep. But, I mean, they've just got to adjust here in the middle of a set. I mean, you don't get far in a tournament like this unless you're willing to change your mind a little bit and admit maybe you were a little bit wrong on some things. You know, no one's 100% right before the tournament. I think it would have been a really good idea to switch Ronnie over to something a little bit more aggressive. So I'm kind of curious. You know, they've given up the Guan Yu now in favor of the Raw. I'm not exactly sure that solves their problems, but at least the Rat is gone. So there's some things to look forward to here.
Yeah, I agree. I think getting rid of the Rat is at least a step in the right direction here for Sanguine. The big thing is that going back, something that can fight a little bit better early on. I mean, we saw how much better Sanguine looked in the early parts of the game with the Kepri instead of the Terra. The Terra is a horrible fighter pre-5. Yeah. And when we're talking about aggression in lane pre-5, going to the Terra, while it was instant team fight, Sanguine got 2 team fights that game before they lost the game. They lost in 20 minutes. Renegades is going to do that to you. You just can't disrespect them like that. So Rom, Kepri, both much better pre-5 than what we've seen from them. On her, better at fighting, but Rom better at clearing pre-5. This would be interesting if this is the lock-in here for the Renegades, because this would be going to Jake 100%, but seems like they might be rethinking.
Yeah, I'm over here trying to do my homework for this team. Look, I wrote down Fafnir, Sobek. The Ratatosker as well has been doing well. I wrote down Ratatosker just to throw out the fact that Lazarus has like a 60% win rate with it all year, not including these games that he's playing. So it's something that has to be respected by them. But Fafnir, Sobek, a lot of aggro picks picked up for this you know, support in Jake. And the Ymir is up there. That's Sobek alongside this Ares that are banned out by Sanguine all match it. This Najah coming through Heroin, I guess as a mid laner, you're the one who's most susceptible to a Najah support, but is that going to make this Renegades team too squishy with a Set and a Najah and their 2 assassins? Is that too much on the light side?
Not necessarily. I think it's going to have to come down to lockdown here, I think, because Naja is just a very quick character that kind of like runs around and jukes abilities. It's kind of like up Jake's alley as well. I think that if they can lock the Naja down, it'll be easier to kill, but I mean, that's a hard character to lock down. She has immunity, she has her ult. She's just fast if she goes regrowth on her too, which I'm sure Jake will fit into his build at some point. And I think it kind of puts pressure on the Raw as well. You know, they can get beads easily, and that's one way to kill these healers is if you put them up in the air with Najah. You know, punish the character when he doesn't have beads up.
I also like the Najah quite a bit up against Kepri because Kepri's so good at saving one person. If you can get them low and then Najah ult them, you kill them up in the air, Kepri never gets a chance to use that revive. Or more commonly, I'd expect, is actually using that Windfire Wheels as a delay tool. You're going to be going on a carry. Jake's going to ult the Kepri, take Rongyu out of the fight, got to kill the carry before Rongyu hits the ground and can use his character again, but that's a fairly big window, especially with burst damage like Discordia, Apollo, Set, and Guan Yu on their side. I will say that I think Sanguine's draft is returning to form for them. I love Panatom on the Susano. I think it's a comfort pick for him. I love Yarkor back on something like this Kakullen, but the bigger concern for me is less about the X's and O's at this point, Gore. It's where are Sanguine mentally? Yeah. After losing a 20-minute game, we've already discussed how we think nerves are already a factor for this team. Now you have to go up against this Renegades team that is brimming with confidence, and your confidence is probably at an all-time low on the Sanguine side. So as much as I like their draft, I don't know if they can win regardless of what they pick at this point.
Yeah, bounce back potential, maybe the biggest thing, that mental elasticity that can come through. How well can you get pushed to the brink and then snap back into form is going to be big for him. I just want to throw it out there. My handy-dandy notebook coming super in handy here. I wrote down Susano for this team because I was looking at it and I was trying to find Rongyu picks more often than not, but I was like, where's the Hercules for Rongyu? Where's this King Arthur that we got to see come out of that long, or the short lane, I should say, on the other side? But also, where has Panatom been? I asked you this morning, Aggro, on the pregame show, is this going to be won by the supports or the jungles? And you had leaned more towards the support at the time. But right now it's both for Renegades. It doesn't necessarily matter. This pick in the Susano won 13 out of 19 of their regular season games. Again, Heroine, this is one that only Sanguine is playing. Nobody else really picks it up. Is it just Panatom and his performance on this, or is there something Susano brings to the table that really can escalate their style of play?
Yeah, Susano's just more of a carry style jungler, I think. Maybe he's kind of feeling like he's having trouble having an impact in these games. He's getting kind of hard peeled off by some of these high CC like comps that are a little bit more frustrating to play against. With the other characters he's playing this way, he can kind of play a little bit more carry style. You know, if they do get to that mid game where they're, you know, infamously a little bit better at, he can have higher impact. I think he picks it late so he can kind of see if his matchup's good into the carries. I think it is pretty solid into the Apollo and especially the Discordia. So I think he's looking to take the game into his hands a little more than he has the previous games, and I'm excited to see how he performs under those circumstances.
Now, Aggro, earlier you had highlighted Naja into Khepri, and specifically how that matchup is really good, and the example you gave was post-Ultimates online. Yeah. Naja going up to the air to take them out of Khepri's res range. But early on, Naja Apollo versus Rom Khepri, that feels very difficult to determine who should win. I mean, pressure, I think, Rom Khepri, but kill potential, Apollo Naja. How's this duo lane looking since it's been so crucial for the Renegades?
It looks volatile to me because Khepri, I mean, is a character that punishes immobility very well, and Naja is an immobile character, but if you can land those ring tosses, make sure that you are being the aggressors in that lane, you do have excellent kill potential. Really easy to body block something like Abduct in order to make sure that Khepri doesn't have a really good escape route, but Naja not having those warrior or guardian base stats in order to withstand a full duration Abduct in the middle of a minion wave with someone like Rom guaranteed pummeling you, that can be really scary. So if I'm Jake, I'm really picking my spots. You want to use that ring toss, make sure that Khepri shield from his passive isn't staying up very long, and then let your all-in happen whenever Apollo has that Audacity passive ready to go.
I'm going to give one more shout-out over here to Renegades. Guan Yu, I think Variety, kind of one of the purveyors that was able to bring this one in. Renegades looking to try and seal the deal here in Game 3. Can Sanguine bring it back? Let's go over to Dolson and Mifflin to figure it out.
You haven't changed a thing. You're poised to take this 1 and 3. If you're a Sanguine fan or want a longer set, turn your socks inside out, flip your hat backwards, upside down, whatever you got to do, stretch out, whatever it is, to get us going a little bit longer here in the set. Still Dolson, still Mifflin, still Doug, working on game number 3. And with everything on the line, Miff, we see our biggest changes as far as draft goes so far. Barracuda, the one mainstay. Apollo, still for him here. Doesn't have Lazarus on the Ratatosker to make it work this time.
My mind's just blown that Apollo makes his way through yet again. Barracuda has been going the distance on this pick, but this is the second time we've seen Naja this week. It's 2 more times than I thought we'd see Naja this week. It's a very interesting pick. I'll be surprised to see how the 408 decides to play it. We heard on the desk that you can use it to isolate one god, make sure that that Scarab's Blessing can't come through, but there's also the opportunity to just ult the Khepri himself. How are you going to revive someone when you're in the air? I think maybe that might be a strategy you got to keep your eyes on.
Well, Miff, I'll be honest. I mean, I haven't expected to see Naja at all anyway, much less now in support. I guess for Awesome Jake. Oh my, the early pressure. Are you serious? Shell has to get used from Rongyu? That's a ring toss and a little wave clear from Barracuda. This Khepri's feeling the pressure.
He really is, and this is the pressure that Sanguine's been feeling in the duo lane literally this entire set. Barracuda is making his stamp known with the help of the 408. But this is new. It's Sanguine getting aggressive in mid.
And it's Panatom on the Susano starting off the aggression. Venenu is on the Discordia this time around. He'll have to back himself away. About half HP left there. Invade from the Renegades. Level 2 reached over onto this purple buff. Purple buff dropped down by RNG, and Awesome Jake will be the one to pick it up. So still early pressure, still in the duo lane. Remember, Rongyu does not have that shell. Another bit of setup like we just saw could go sideways quickly.
That's a tough start for Sanguine. Losing the first purple buff is so detrimental to the pace of this lane. And keep in mind, Renegades still have theirs to fall back to. Clear a wave, back up, get some farm. But looks like help's on the way. Sanguine sending in the jungler.
Panatom is rotating. Barracuda, you just dropped a ward. I guess they didn't see him. Panatom around the backside. Here comes the jungler from Sanguine. Jake has taken so much damage. Shell enough for the time being, but the dash is there. First blood to Sanguine.
Fantastic rotation and adaptation from Sanguine to deal with this early aggression
We wondered
from
when it
the
would happen.
Renegades. And they finally make that pivot to find themselves first blood, but it's not quite enough just yet. The lead should still likely be favoring Renegades inside the dual lane as far as XP goes, but 408 falling early. We saw it in game 1. It happened to him twice, and he
right.
still found a way to be 3 levels up.
Yeah, now it's time to convert if you're Sanguine. I think importantly, though, Mifflin, is that Panatom is the one who gets first blood, and it's the god that he's playing. It's the Susano pick. You heard
Agreed.
the desk talking about this, the ability to carry some of these games on a pick like this. In a set where Lazarus played as well as he has, you could make an argument why Panatom has kind of faded into the background. Now's the time, though, on a pick like this with first blood in your back pocket, to start to make some waves.
But he can't move up too far just yet. He's got 2 people on him, and he's a level down on Laz.
Panatom pulls Lazarus back in, realizing that's not where he wants to be. Panatom will have to dash away. Now it's Yarkor getting aggressive as well. Half HP on Laz, half HP on Variety. Yarkor charging up that rage bar. Might be a transformation here. Just around the corner. Will the Renegades totally forfeit the blue buff? That's the question. Not much free damage being returned onto Panatom or onto Yarkor. Buying some time. Watch out for the rotations now. Venenu has had some time to make his way over to the solo lane. Panatom and Yarkor realize it, and they'll leave.
But the duo lane sparks remain flying. Fists will fly at this location. The Renegades bring the fight to the Sanguine's tower line, and this
Wow.
purple buff, they want it again. Jake thinks better of it, though. Maybe not liking the look of the map right now.
Now, what do we think of this Naja out of support? I mean, Jake, absolutely unconventional in some of his picks. And I suppose once you start to rotate out of lane, you're playing it like you would a Naja anyway. What does the lane phase start to look like with this pick?
It's so aggressive, the ability to not only isolate the lane, but if Barracuda ever gets wave pressure, all of a sudden that ring mouse is only going to have 2 targets. It's good CC, good range CC as well with the sash. But this is what we're worried about. A good rotation from Shinto maintains that purple.
That's right, Shinto on the Ra this time around. We've seen Persephone a couple of games in a row now for Shinto. He's had near top damage, if not top damage, in both of those games, but hasn't been able to really convert that into serious kill pressure from what we've seen. Do you think this Ra pivot is what gets it done?
I think it's going to be very nice for him. It's going to be some out-of-combat healing, which is something that Sanguine has been benefiting from a lot in the drafts that they like throughout the phase. I think that, if anything, though, we're worried about Shinto's ability to survive the dive. It's a different type of dive from the Renegades this time around. Instead of that Ratatasker dunk, now you're worried about Variety riding a horse in, or Lazarus going on his own on this set with Apollo dunk in the back. And Persephone at least had the ability to fight from the grave or a leap to get out of these dangerous situations. For Ra, it's all about positioning, where he is, where his teammates are,
Right.
and whether or not he can make good use of that CC, or slow immunity rather, on the second ability.
And you got to hope that there's some lockdown as well. Those Searing Pains, certainly not easy to hit. So if Shinto is able to capitalize on a Kepri route or some lockdown from Yarkor or Panatom or something of the like, then that's where you'll really start to see this mid lane pick start to springboard its way forward. Lasbra off the Ratatosker, though, this game. Onto the set. We've seen set in Yarkor's hands now a couple of games in a row. Lasbra quieter to start off this game. This Ratatosker by this time had at least assisted in the last 2 games. This set needs a little time to start to get there. What are your expectations for Laz this game?
I'm thinking around the time he finishes up this mace, maybe a Brother's Beat Stick to deal with Shinto, or even a Jotun's Wrath if he thinks he's going to be fighting constantly. But after that, maybe second, third item, that's when Lazarus is really going to start feeling himself. He knows he can go in and act as that solo agent, has the kill potential on his own. But Shinto has established himself a very nice lead in the middle lane. Panatom has split very few waves, and that allocates itself into a 1-level lead for Shinto.
That's right, and that is now where the eyes start to focus, especially if Jungler is going to be hanging around in this area. Jake is left lane. He gets the ultimate over onto Panatom. Lazbro lurking down in the waters below, but it's a Scarab's blessing to keep one alive. Panatom sends the Typhoon flying and grabs his second kill of the game. Easy as you like, another kill on board.
Yeah, Sanguine's down in the set, but certainly not out. 2-0 at 6 minutes, and they have a fantastic counter rotation in that speed buff. I can't fault the Renegades, though. The 408, how's he supposed to know that 4 members of Sanguine are sitting on a back camp? That's just not something you could plan for. You don't have the wards deep enough to go for those plays, and Rongyu, he's where he needs to be.
Yeah, I remember what that meme is where, like, nothing terrifies me, but, like, that thing scares me, and it's a picture of something. It's Awesome Jake, I suppose, at 0-2. Maybe that's what Sanguine needs to be worried about here, because this is exactly where Game 1 started to turn around. It's a different pick, though. This Naja, absolutely great at that single target lockdown, but Tyr is just going to run at you and sweep you by the wayside regardless almost of where things are throughout the game. Jake has absolutely been there. Now it's turnaround time for him. I think the onus more on him, maybe Sanguine at this point, to start to find some value. Netrioid as well. Remember, he had started to fall behind a couple of times throughout this game. On her in a couple of games back to back. Now it's the Rom pick. A very popular pick out of the Hunters here in this league to try to springboard Sanguine back into the set.
And I think it might be Netrioid's most played god throughout the SPL this year, so he's going to be much more comfortable on this pick as well. And if it's going to be, we're diving Netrioid, if that's the same plan in Game 3 as it has been in Games 1 and 2 for the Renegades, all of a sudden, Rom, hop into the air, remove yourself from the playfield, create time for your Scarab's Blessing, for Rongyu to get into range, or for the rest of your team to rotate in. So I think that this is another very smart pivot that you've highlighted here, Dave. Sanguine making some adjustments deep into the set.
Right, if I'm just going to get jumped on, at least I have the ability to get out of it somewhat alive. There was another look over towards the blue buff of the Renegades, just briefly there, from Panatom and Yarkor. Remember, we had that big back and forth kind of tug of war over the Renegades blue buff that ended up fizzling out once both of the mid laners started to rotate their way that way. Much more calculated, though, in their aggression this time are Sanguine. You've got to realize, I mean, this is definitely a mental check for them, right, where Game 1, very contested, barn burner of a game. Game 2, not to mince words, you get blown out of the water. Now you got to lead here in Game 3. It's how you can check that mental and get yourselves a win to get back into the set. But Mifflin, it's not going to help if the Renegades get a free gold Fury.
Yeah, that's not healthy for the mental right there. Netrioid playing Rom, that's one of the best gods to contest gold Fury with. You have to be worried about that ultimate coming through for a steal almost every time. But Renegades, they just choose their spot perfectly. No vision for Sanguine means gold Fury is going down for free. And I could already imagine the comms is just, oh, bummer. And they have to reset themselves and get ready for the next objective.
Right, and Sanguine just not in position to contest against that one, except for maybe Netrioid again with some of those snipes. You can see kind of the counter-engage immediately after that. Sanguine start to push forward onto the Renegade side of the jungle, but Renegade's smart enough to leave. Won't leave that door open for Sanguine. Panatom, though, this is what you started to see from Lazarus in the first couple of games, that you're happy now, if you're a Sanguine fan or want this set to go longer, that you're starting to see from Panatom. The quick invades. I'm going to drop back, shred away some of those back camps from Lazarus. Those small things that Laz has been doing that Panatom hasn't, that now you're starting to see a slight shift.
But still, Lazarus establishes himself a one-level lead in the jungle despite Panatom being 2-0, despite Panatom being able to strip away a little bit of farm around these back camps. Lazarus has been a lot less present on the map. He hasn't been looking for nearly as many ganks as Panatom has, but he's maintaining that farm. And I'm more worried about a late-game set than I am on a late-game Susano.
Fair enough, but it's time for Panatom to show up and prove to us why a late-game Susano is something to be feared. Small skirmish maybe over the Oracles. Panatom and Shinto just poked their heads around the corner. Nothing to be found there. And you wonder how that starts to shift around the tide of this game, though, Miff. A relatively free Gold Fury early on goes the way of the Renegades. There's suddenly not all that much to fight over, right? I mean, now both of these teams are back to just farming and looking for ganks.
Yeah, Renegades essentially pulled a ripcord saying, no more aggression, but Variety is under some aggression, under some duress as he's forced to retreat towards the Pyro, and he loses the ultimate and the blink, but it's not too bad for him. You want to maintain that life, and at least you get your blue buff as a consolation prize.
I was kind of rolling my eyes at the Yarkor damage there, Variety just kind of walking away, but didn't expect Panatom to immediately shoot up that gap, try to create a gank there for himself. In the meantime, Laz were able to secure another blue buff over the Renegades. We haven't seen that continued pressure onto the blue buff of the Renegades just yet, though Sanguine probably feel confident in putting pressure as long as Panatom is somewhere close by. Lazarus, point out, still nursing that one-level lead. Yarkor finds the knock-up under the Tier 1 tower is Variety. Panatom here as well. That's one dead Guan Yu. Panatom killing spree 10 minutes in.
Yeah, you can go for these three-man dives when Gold Fury's dead already. Sanguine finding that opportunity, realizing there's nothing that Renegades can do on the opposite side of the map. Instead, Lazarus tries to do something to strip back some farm, checks those back camps, able to take those away. But is it worth a Tier 1 tower and your solo laner's life? Definitely not. Sanguine find themselves a win.
Big differences. Barracuda does not have a 2-level lead over Netrioid as he had in the last couple of games. Much less than that. Difference. Variety, 2 levels down from Yarkor as well. Lazarus still about a half level ahead of where we've seen Panatom, but this Kulkoan now in a position aside the Susano as well to give Sanguine a great chance in this game.
Look, 2-level lead on your soul laner. Tower is already dead. It's time for Yarkor to leave lane and spread the wealth. I want to see him involved in these fights in mid. I want to see them forcing some fights around this Pyromancer. If Sanguine is able to desync the timers of these neutral objectives, Gold Fury and Pyro, with the lead that they've already established for themselves around this soul lane, Yarkor could be the fulcrum, the pivot for this whole match for Sanguine to get themselves back in it. But they need to have him get involved before Variety's able to catch up.
How much weight, how much concern do you start to then put in Awesome Jake's 2-level lead over Rongyu?
A good bit. 2-level lead on a Naja in general is going to be very nice. Having your support get that secondary relic available at level 12 is going to be huge for them, which should be able to mitigate some of that loss we're seeing around the soul lane for the Renegades. But it's not the same type of pressure. It's not the same type of pressure that each of these supports are trying to bring. Rongyu's playing this facilitator role. He's trying to get the Scarab's Blessing set up for his mid laner Shinto, whereas Awesome Jake 408 is trying to be this solo agent instead of going for the more traditional aura defense. Looks like he's going in for a sledge.
Look at what Lazarus done over the last couple of minutes. Invaded the red of Sanguine, now invading the purple as well. Lazarus decimated the left side of the Sanguine jungle. That means, though, that Sanguine can start to look towards the Pyro. They won't get it. Instead, Variety, Blink, Cavalry Charge, triple stun, absurd. Variety starts off this fight. Immediate collapse, though, from Awesome Jake. Rongyu drops down. Scarab's Blessing used on himself. Barracuda circling the skies. He'll drop down onto Shinto as well. The Mez is there. Shell popped. Sanguine healthy for the time being, and it's Awesome Jake leading the charge back in, but big knockup from Yarkor.
Yarkor still moving forward. He's got Jake isolated. Picks up a kill inside the blue buff. Fen running with his tail between his legs, as are the rest of Renegades. They were there in numbers, but they couldn't find the win.
The Renegades got to feel like they are winning that fight through and through and through, but Sanguine, look at the sustain that they were able to bring out. Nobody would die. Everyone stayed alive somehow. Yarkor wants more. Blink under the tier 2 tower, just shy of an Anu. He's got to have double-digit HP, and he'll survive to fight another day.
His life flashes before his eyes there, but unfortunately, not only do Sanguine win the fight on the right side of the map, Netrioid strips away a tier 1 tower. Pyromancer also down. Sanguine now grouped up around this Gold Fury and Netrioid. Where's this confidence coming from?
I don't know, man. I guess it takes you going down a couple games in the set to start to feel yourselves a little bit. Sanguine are absolutely doing that here. Oni Fury down, 10% HP, Variety close by. He'll think twice. Second Fury of the game to Sanguine.
2,300, maybe 2,600 gold in favor of Sanguine. We're reaching the danger zone. You don't want the Sanguine boys in the lead this early on. These guys are supposed to be a late game team, and now they're priming themselves so well to transition themselves into something huge. Fire Giant, the only neutral objective left up. We're rapidly approaching the point of the match where both teams have to be worried about it going down. Anyone wins another fight, like we just saw, Fire Giant should fall quickly.
Yeah, Kenny Loggins singing in the distance somewhere. Danger zone approaching for Sanguine, and Yarkor continuing to springboard that lead. Don't laugh, that is a quality item there from me, Mifflin. Thank you very much. Venenu falls a couple levels behind Shinto now here. Ra, I mean, hasn't necessarily been this massive damage output. Look at the player damage charts. That is as much parity as I've seen between one and the rest, maybe ever. I mean, 3 times every single person in the game and then some is Yarkor here. This Kulkoan pulling his weight for sure.
Yeah, he is trying to keep his team afloat, and it's absolutely working. 3 levels up is Yarkor, forcing Variety's ultimate on cooldown. That's why this Guan Yu has been stuck inside his tower for the entire match. This is why Awesome Jake has to stay on the right side of the map. If they dive Yarkor, or Variety rather, he's gonna just die due to this deficit.
Panatom as well, continuing to build up that lead. Now even level-wise with Lazarus. Variety, my man, you've got a blink, but you don't have an ultimate. Panatom is there, does not pull Variety back in, so it looks like the Guan Yu might survive. Variety actually turning this one around. That's because Lazarus here as well. Scarab's Blessing onto Panatom. It's a 3 versus 2 fight on the back end of things as Jake joins the fray as well. Watch out for Venenu rotating around the left, but there comes Barra. John Salter into the back line. Panatom takes a tumble. Big fight here to determine the rest of the next few minutes of this game. Rongyu stunned on in. Barracuda double kill. Of course he does. The rotation's big for the Apollo.
But the fight's not over. Variety's upset with how it started. He wants it himself. Cavalry charge on Nishito.
Only enough healing to save your life for a few seconds longer. Now Variety has one as well. It's a 3-for-1 as we stand, and if Yarkor falls, it'll make for big-time fight for the Renegades.
Barracuda, man, he's doing it all for his team. Every single time he rotates out, though, Sanguine gets something in return. This time, Netrioid trying to take down a tier 2 tower. Lazarus going to be a little bit late on the rotation. It's going to go their way, but now, how is Netrioid going to farm up that lane? Barracuda could just freeze it at the Phoenix.
If we've got a mini-map and I'm surprised every time Barracuda shows up, I can't imagine how Sanguine feel in some of these fights. Here's the big takeaway, though. Fantastic. You're excited now if you're a Renegades fan that you've seen that fight go that way. You have to keep your eyes on that gold lead, though. Still 1,500 XP lead. Effectively nothing here at this point. There is a small dip down in gold, but Sanguine's still ahead in that department.
They are, but this 1,000 gold lead is meaning less and less as the clock clicks onward. Now Sanguine is letting that lead start to slip away. The neutral objectives have been desynced, so they can put up a fight on the Pyromancer and then immediately move into the gold free. But that means that's the same for both teams. If Renegades gets Pyro, they'll likely get the gold. The same can be said of Sanguine.
Yeah, I said I missed it. You at home might have as well. Barracuda on his rotation over into that fight was absolutely pivotal, and it's one thing that Netrioid is going to have a hard time, Mifflin, keeping up with throughout this game. Barracuda lands on down, and that's through a Scarab's Blessing. That's through all the escape that really Sanguine had built up, and an Apollo can mitigate that.
Man, and that fight goes so poorly for Ven as well. He gets dove on immediately, misses the golden apple, but still, the Renegades are able to win it cleanly because their ADC is just there. We haven't had Netrioid in a single fight. Sanguine keeps taking fights on the solo side of the map as if they've got the same ability to rotate. They don't. Barracuda's going to be there every single time. Netrioid is but just a man. He has to walk on his feet.
Well, here's the big difference, though, and this is what you have to look at, is Barracuda then has to leave lane. It's the parity. You don't get to do both. You don't get to sit and farm and build up gold. You have to, if you're going to leave lane, you're leaving a lot of gold and free farming on the map. Netrioid has built up a 2-level lead. I imagine a little bit of a gold lead over Barracuda then as well, depending on how those kills and assists translate over. It's getting this 2-level lead involved in the fights that Sanguine have to be concerned about.
But you only hit level 21, so now Netrioid should be ready to rotate out as Scarab's Blessing is not used. The Abduct finds Jake.
Oh my, Jake lives as well. That is a lot poured into the Najal. Oh no, Panatom, Scarab's Blessing just on time from Rongyu. But it's an immediate sash back in from Jake, and Rongyu still stays alive. The guts on this guy to go back in at that level of HP. Something else, and Barracuda's still going to get the tower and left.
Jake maintains the ultimate, by the way. He just holds on to it. He knows he doesn't need to use it. And Netrioid, if you can split push, so can Barracuda. Takes down the tier 1. Renegades knocking on the tier 2 on the right side as well.
Yeah, so can Variety and Lazarus. They'll split push themselves as well. Pyromancer now started up from the Renegades. Gold lead, no longer. Renegades right back to even, and it's half HP on the Pyromancer, but Sanguine close enough by. If the Renegades decide to leave, they don't want to push this fight any further. Barracuda does have his ultimate. Won't want to burn that one here just yet. He'll drop the red buff on down for Venenu whenever the Discordia makes her way on over to that side of the map. But just prior to that fight, we talked about this, exactly this. How are you going to get Netrioid involved in the fights? Maybe it's looking for objectives on this side of the map.
It is, but Barracuda, this is what everyone hates. He can just hover for as long as he wants. Sanguine, you better run!
You gotta laugh. Barracuda drops on down, but Sanguine is not there to be found. Instead, Renegades just start up the Gold Fury on their own. Barracuda alone forced to disengage from Sanguine, and that is a free Fury on over to the Renegades because Barracuda was helicoptering above.
I've never seen fear like that on display like that. Everyone, the untrained eye, could see it on Sanguine. Barracuda, man. It's just the threat of it. And he's the only one in range to follow up. Sanguine, lacking a little bit on the ward department, doesn't realize that it's just Barracuda there. Creates so much space, and Gold Fury goes down absolutely for free.
Mifflin, this game is very close to even. Sanguine very much in things here, depending on, I was wondering what Jake was doing there. Didn't know if he was starting it up or just lurking around the FG. Are you surprised that Barracuda got the Apollo 3 games in a row?
Yeah, I wouldn't have let him have it 2 games in a row. He had a fantastic first match, Sanguine. It might just be disrespect. It might be they're more so worried about Lazarus, that 10-2 slash line, shaking him a little bit in the first match. But this Apollo pick has been so detrimental for Sanguine every single time. Barracuda looks amazing.
This is very important for Sanguine to secure. We've seen Pyromancers that get stolen away in moments like this that just kind of mentally break a team based on the rest of what has happened throughout that game. Sanguine don't even want to roll those dice. They'll back themselves away. It's interesting, I think, Miff. You see this respect that Sanguine are paying the Renegades around these objectives. And they've got some of the best objectives secure with this Ra, and they're still not wanting to take some of these fights around these objectives just because of what the Renegades are able to do in fights.
It's feeling like a very nervous playstyle, isn't it? Like, you're right. This Ra has the best confirmation on the map. No one's matching Searing Pain.
There you go. Now it's an abduct back in onto Variety. Pyromancer never got finished off. Variety has to cavalry charge away. Small win there for Sanguine. Maintain all 5 of their ultimates. Pyromancer still just beneath half HP, and Sanguine will continue to whittle it down. And finally, the Pyromancer's there. Great call by Sanguine to pull back some gold.
Darkor blinks forward, tries to find Ven on his own, doesn't have his team behind him, but meanwhile, the split push that Renegades are known for. Lazarus takes a tier 2 in mid, Barracuda a tier 2 in left.
What do you call this, dismantling? I don't know. This game of chess from the Renegades has been an absolute treat to watch. Yeah, you're going to commit everything over to the Pyro, but we're going to take towers over in mid and over in left, and look at how that's translated to gold now. We were talking about how even this game was just a few moments ago. Pyromancer in all, Sanguine now find themselves 3K in the hole.
It's a tough one, man. Divide and conquer strategy for the Renegades, and even with Barracuda split pushing there, you can't count him out of the fight. He'll just hop on the chariot, and he'll be there as soon as you need him. So Sanguine have to make a decision in that moment. We dive as hard as we can and try and force Renegades to rotate in and try and get them off our towers. Do we try and pull the Fire Giant? What do we do? And Sanguine, they didn't have the answer. They just back up, and Renegades walk away with a smooth win.
Yeah, Barracuda, 2,000 gold over Netrioid. We wondered how the level lead that Netrioid had translated into gold lead. It does not at all, at least up to this point. Both of them have reached level 20, so Sanguine still very much at that point where XP is going to start mattering less and less. It's the 3-level difference in the jungle that you start to get worried about, the 3-level difference over in support. But the one saving grace, as it has been from the beginning, Myth, is that Shinto has held a steady lead over Venenu in the mid lane.
He has, but that lead is starting to dwindle as the match goes on. You only hit level 20 once, and he's already there. Ven is just going to be pooling experience this entire time, and Sanguine are kind of spinning their wheels in the jungle. This is exactly what Renegades want. If you keep standing in the jungle as 5 as Sanguine, Barracuda's going to go over to dual lane, force someone to back to stop him from taking a Phoenix, and then immediately ult into the fight. Sanguine, up against this comp, they have to be the ones forcing the fights. They have to be the ones forcing the issue, trying to make Renegades react. And so far, Sanguine's been playing reactively the entire game.
Right, and with Lasbra at the point that he's at, hard to imagine why, in that at the Brawler's Beatstick, Sledge annoying to deal with, and Titan's Bane and Heartseeker as well. This set, if he finds his way onto anyone in that backline, Mifflin, they are not going to survive long.
But for now, he's 0-0-0. My man is on Farmville Simulator right now. Lasbra just making sure he's ready for that late game fight. He's getting ready for that one fight that's going to be able to swing the match. But if we want to talk about XP leads, we were worried about it earlier. 0-3 is awesome, Jake. Simultaneously 3 levels up, by the way. I don't know how this kid does it.
Wait, that's exactly what I said. The one thing that they're terrified of, Sanguine, is Jake being 0-2 in one of these games. The way that my man, Rookie of the Year nominee, has been able to turn around a couple of holes that he's been in so far leaves nothing to be wondered as to why he was nominated for something like that. The play has been fantastic there. I'd argue Rongyu has had a much better game here as well. Still, 3 levels down, make no mistake about it. But a couple of the Scarab's blessings have helped, I think, Sanguine mitigate what would have otherwise been much worse fights.
He's constantly where he needs to be. Rongyu is playing very well around his team here, but Renegade stepping a little bit far forward. Nice sash to stop that abduct.
That's what we see. Rongyu abducts on in, and then Jake just immediately sashes Rongyu, so it's kind of a null trade there on either end. It's a Fury started up by the Renegades here. This is all just buying some time. Barracuda and Lasper don't want to roll the dice. Instead, Sanguine move in. You've got the Ra, but you don't need the Searing Pain. But here comes Barracuda. Up to the sky is the Apollo. Shinto dunked on Rongyu, trying to separate things here. All Typhoon beatsed out by Barracuda. He's free casting in the backline. Lasbra wrapping around the right-hand side. Massive cleave damage on through. Lasbra has to burn the actives, and Yarkor picks up the kill. Now it's Netrioid on the snipes to help clean up one.
They're turning it around. Sanguine are. They were able to find a beam on a bear in the back. No beads available. It's time to run away. And the healing, that favors Sanguine. The longer this fight goes, the more it's going to go their way. Renegades think better of it. Unfortunate. Lasbra loses all of his HP just holding W key.
That has got to be exactly what the doctor ordered. If you're Sanguine, not only do you force the Renegades off the Fury, not only do you then pick up the Fury. I mean, that is a wild fight to be a 1-for-none, but it is a 1-for-none. Now Lasbra goose-egged a moment ago. Now 0-1-0. Best case scenario, I think, in that moment for Sanguine outside of a free deicide.
But look at all the relic usage from both teams. Neither one can feel confident moving in towards these objectives. Sanguine has got nothing left in the tank, but the same could be said of Renegades. They want fire now. Lazarus dead for 8 seconds. It's an okay opportunity.
Barracuda still pushing down the left-hand side. The Apollo ultimate not ready to go just yet either. This could be a Phoenix for a Fire Giant trade. We'll have to see how the Renegades elect to roll these dice here. Fire Giant down, 25% HP. Shinto being run at. He's making his way from Variety and then some as well. Netrioid pouring out the damage. Variety, have you done too much? For the time being, it looks like yes. Variety dies alone in the back of the Fire Giant. Pit and Yarkor running down Venenu. 2-kill swing on over to Sanguine. And Yarkor will be the one to go down.
But Fire Giant is just now getting picked back up, and the Renegades are able to rotate in, and you better watch out for Barracuda. He's on the chariot.
Fire Giant goes down. Sanguine secure it. Barracuda rotating on through. Does he want to engage here? No, he does not. Barracuda, important note, takes down the left side Phoenix. So a small hole in the Sanguine base, though Sanguine does secure the FG.
Fire Giant on 4 members. They have to start pushing now. This is a good opportunity for them to make use of this siege. The sustain from Fire Giant matched with the sustain from Ra means that the longer these fights go, it's going to favor them in spades. They want to take down that left side Phoenix, Sanguine that is, to match what Barracuda was able to do for the Renegades on the duo side of the map. Those fire minion waves should be easy to deal with when you got a Ra on your team.
Well, Miff, I haven't gotten to set you up for one of these just as of yet. I mean, on the scoreboard up there, it looks like Sanguine is 3K gold behind, but they got the FG buff in their back pocket, so that doesn't necessarily tell the whole story.
Yeah, but, you know, Fire Giant's worth about 10K. I know you want me to say it, and I mean it absolutely. So let's call it a 6,000 gold lead in favor of Sanguine as they start barreling down the left side. But it's a slow grouping. The jungler and the support for Sanguine lagging a little bit behind, and it doesn't seem like it's going to be a split push at all. They're leaving that minion wave in mid towards the center of the map.
That's right. Now it's Renegades outside of that one Titan defense in game 1 playing defensively. Variety blinks and dashes. And now we'll have to cavalry charge defensively and turns it into offensively, but Variety is down to half HP. Netrioid up to the skies, hits the snipes, but doesn't do enough damage yet. Big ultimate from Panatom forces the Renegades on back. And now it's Rongyu who eats the apple on from Venenu. Variety and Ven both way too low to continue the fight.
But Variety gets so much there. He buys 10, 15 seconds of time. He burns through the Susano ultimate as well as the Rom ultimate. It's going to be pretty hard for him to siege here as long as Renegades can get there in time.
Jake is engaging, finds the ultimate onto Rongyu. Scarab's Blessing is up in the sky for the time being. Down, slams one. Venenu finds the delete onto Rongyu. Scarab's Blessing not enough here.
Still alive?
Oh, and then he sashes onto Yarkor as well. Jake finally goes down, but Barracuda joins the ranks of the killing spree. Renegades save their Phoenix.
Yarkor steps too far forward, but Barracuda smells blood in the water. Panatom, you're alone, but he doesn't have his eyes on you. He's going to hover around as much as he needs to.
I don't know what team comms look like in a moment like this. Barracuda just taunting you from up in the sky. Yeah, your mana bar is melting down. How far do you want to chase on in? It's Panatom who will have to dash away. So Barracuda does find a target. Panatom able to stay safe. Renegades able to calm down. They dispel that wave of an attack from Sanguine. And Myth, now it's only Panatom, Shinto, and Netrioid with the FG buff, and it's going to fall off in a minute or so.
About a minute and a half from now, and you know what? That FG push might have netted you a tier 2 tower, but Barracuda gets it back for himself. Now no towers remaining for Sanguine. Every bird exposed, except for the left one that's already fallen. Renegades are in a very good spot. It was nearly 8,000 gold in their favor just a few moments ago. Now closer to 4, but Fire Giant spawning in just about 2 minutes. I'm sure Renegades are fine with it.
Well, and the way the Renegades are pivoting here and the way that the objectives are respawning maybe benefits Sanguine. You've got massive fire waves to deal with on the left side of this map, and the Fury is going to be the objective that the Renegades look towards here in a minute or two. So if you have to be anywhere, it's the same side of the map that you want to be anyway because of the way the fire minions are working. Rongyu with Panatom and with Shinto. Yarkor joins the party as well. Netrioid close by are going to start up this Primal Fury, and Renegade's not close enough by, and this one will go over to Sang.
Seems like the Renegades weren't interested in it. They know they had the timer on that one. Instead, though, they realized they can't group up in time. Let's not conveyor belt in. Sanguine can have this Primal Fury, but it's not enough to close the gold lead. It's still 3,000 in favor of Renegades. 30 minutes in, that's not too much, but as time goes on, we're starting to get to those true 6 slots. The Elixir of Speed coming through for Renegades. Maybe some of these items are going to be a little bit more so leaning towards Tank Shred. Barracuda electing to go for the crit build is going to make it very hard for Panatom, Shinto, and Netrioid to operate. If he does get the true 6 slot, could be a size, and all of a sudden you can add Yarkor and Rongyu to that list.
Still a very similar build path from Barracuda. He loves the way that those early couple of items translate over into the late game and hit those power spikes where you can double and triple kill to your heart's content. Left side Phoenix just now respawning for Sanguine, so one more wave of fire minions to deal with, easy enough. As things return to a bit of a hush here, and I think great for Sanguine that they were able to get that Fury. Of course, FG, the most important objective, but now, if you don't even have to worry about that side of the map outside of Barracuda doing what he might want to do here, and it's split push on down while Sanguine's looking towards the FG.
And Sanguine really doesn't have a great answer to deal with Barracuda here because Yarkor elects to pick up a Thorns and a Blink instead of a Teleport. He can't rotate and stop Barra's push and then TP in. Whoever goes to stop Barracuda is committing himself to that fight.
Well, it's got to be that for a brief moment you're fighting an enemy team without an ADC, so you gotta, I guess, hope, Myth, that you're winning that fight quick enough or quicker than Barracuda can rotate his way on in. Keep your eyes, if you're at home, on the left side of the mini-map there. Barracuda awaiting in the wings. It's an abduct on in. Awesome Jake pulled in. Variety stuns down on a Panatom as well. Shell used early on. Fire Giant has been left.
Huge
the apple hits onto Shinto. It's a Scarab's blessing, but he will not get detonated. Snipes on down from Netrioid. The Renegades, they don't have the health to fight out through the rest of this. Wait for Barracuda to join the fray, though. Double kill from the Apollo. Of course he does. Barracuda makes the difference. Now it's Rongyu awaiting around the corner. Are their days numbered? Barracuda finds 3 Renegades. Big fight.
Don't you ever ignore Barracuda when he is on the map, because he will be the difference maker.
Hit him with the quad! Yeah, baby! He got the quad, and down the mid lane go the Renegades. It's Yarkor against everyone. John Salter, my man, goes big. 33 minutes into the game. The Renegades work on down the mid lane. Yarkor, you got 1 inch of life left in you, my friend, and it is a tall, tall hill to climb. Barracuda 7-0-3 in game 3, and the Renegades, they're gonna work their way onto the semifinals. They'll see Ghost tomorrow.
Jake steals the unofficial Penta, but I'm sure it's all smiles in the Renegades house. Sanguine, short work, 3-0 to top up the day. Fantastic play. Now, the rest of the SPL can learn from Sanguine's mistakes. It's time to start banning Apollo.
Yeah, did we say that this game would be one loss decided out of the duo lane? I suppose. I cannot believe, after game 1 and game 2, Apollo finds his way back to Barracuda there in game 3. I mean, that is wild. I mean, you ban out the Ratatosker, you think everything is all good, you think your life is saved, but anything but there for Sanguine. 3-0 onto the Renegades. They're in the semifinals tomorrow.
Hello, SMITE fans. It's me, Finch. Hopefully you recognize me from the broadcast. It is time for the Golden Bolts Awards, that time of the year when we celebrate the best here in the SMITE community. If you're wondering what those Golden Bolts are, they're a SMITE-themed award show that we use to recognize some of the best in the community. And the way that this thing works is that the community submitted the nominees, the finalists were then selected by us here at Titan Forge, and then you all voted on the winners yourselves out of the community. Now we can talk a little bit about which categories are going to be going over here today. That is Fan Art of the Year, Funniest Moment of the Year, as well as Community Member of the Year. So a lot of cool categories specifically focused on the community that we'll talk about here today. So since we're going to do the Fan Art of the Year here first, I'll go ahead and go over the nominees for Fan Art of the Year. That is some fun names here. Canal du Illustria, hope I got that one right. Wolfdog Art, Rob Draws, and Ragin' Cajun were all nominated here for this award. We'll go ahead and talk about who came out here as the winner of it. It was Ragin' Cajun was selected here as the winner of this award. So let's go ahead and see what they had to say as thank you for winning the award.
What's going on, guys? My name is Ragin' Cajun, and I am the winner of this year's Fan Art of the Year, the Golden Bolts Award that SMITE so generously put out there for us. I want to say thank you for everyone who voted for me, and all the support that I got for the Doodle Raw submission. It's been what an honor and what a privilege to be a part of that, and we are super happy and super grateful that you guys did that for us. Thanks.
Well, great dog, great fan art as well. Congrats to you, Ragin' Cajun, on the win. Now let's go ahead and talk a little bit about the next category. That's Funniest Moment of the Year. So we'll go through some of the nominees here for you. That's Benji, Barracuda, some of the ones nominated for this one, Hazer and Incon. And the one who came out as the winner here, no big surprise, it is Barracuda, who had some stuff to say after he won.
It's my community. I just wanted to say a big thank you to the fish tank and to all my fans that continue to support me and that have voted for me to win the Golden Bolt's funniest moment. Honestly, did not think that I was gonna win, and the fact that you guys continue to support me and still vote for me for stuff like this is just amazing. I love you guys so much, and thank you.
Congrats again to Barracuda. We knew he was going to win that one. Such a likable guy. The last nomination that we're going to be doing here today, the last category, is Community Member of the Year. This one was a really close race. Wraithane, Jithin, Savvy Soar, Blues Ultra were all up for this one. They all do a lot of great stuff here in the community, but the winner of this one was Wraithane. He alone stood above the rest at the very end of it. This guy works hard, bringing in tons of great content. So, of course, a great guy to win this award. Congrats out there to Wraithane.
What's up, SMITE fans? Just wanted to say thank you guys so much for voting me as your community member of the year for 2020. This really means the world to me. Since I set out as a content creator many years ago, I always wanted to make sure SMITE was a better place for everyone who played it. And it's really been an honor to serve as your mentor, coach, streamer, Olympian, and so much more over the years. And this is a great validation of all the hard work that I've put into it. Thank you again. Keep feeding, and I'll see you guys in game.
That's going to do it here for us today with the Golden Bolts Awards. We have plenty more categories to go through, plenty more nominees, so make sure you stick around throughout the rest of this week.
If anything that I think I've said this weekend is true, that clip of Barra just laughing, a supercut of it, must be the most. I mean, literally infectious laugh that comes through. And, you get to see it again. Congratulations to everybody on those Golden Boats who were able to win. And I would also say, I guess, maybe a little bit of congratulations to those of us that we're about to look at who are enjoying SWC at home using that exact hashtag on Twitter to get featured here on the broadcast. For those of you who are watching, make sure you show us how it was doing. I'm wondering, I'm going to put money that Jithins is in this already because I saw him tweet it out. He didn't showcase it, so if we do have that one, I want everyone to look at the pictures. If we don't have them, I want you to know that he didn't cover all 5 of the monitors he had set up. Yes, you heard me right, 5 of them. There was a Mealsy, though, going to be hanging around, one of our old pros, I guess the old guard, as you would have, somebody that we haven't got to see in a little while, as well as all these other wonderful people who are chilling, nice relaxing in the bed watching some SMITE. That's got to be really comfortable to be able to sit back and watch this as the Renegades come through. Although that says SWC at home and chill. I'm glad we got that picture. That one's the one that we can show on broadcast. I want to know what's going on behind the doors. Either way, there's Jithins. Like I said, not showing all 5 monitors. You can kind of see the peak of the 5th one in there, but he's got way too many. And if you look, yeah, that's a Pepsi bottle back there. Jithins, we're going to need to upgrade that to water someday, man. I do not want your kidneys to die. This is a cry for your help. This is your health that I am worried about more than anything.
You know what? I'm brainstorming in the future here. We always do great work with charity events and all that kind of stuff here at hi-rez. I think forcing Jithins to only drink water for like a month for charity or something like that, that could be really good. Yeah, just something to keep in mind.
Well, that'd be a fun one. Either way, Gormizer, Aggro, you've now seen us on the desk. We also got Herwind sitting up here once again. Thanks for coming back. Now, I don't know about you two. I took one note realistically. It was a nice long game, really back and forth, but I very simply just wrote down Barracuda. Ignore how bad my handwriting is. I think at the end of the day, we really only have one thing to worry about, and Aggro, you've kind of mentioned it when it happened, but I'll go back to you. The Cupid ban you weren't very happy with.
I can't imagine Sanguine is either after how that game. I mean, look, how many times did Sanguine get off to a good lead in this game, start a fight on the right-hand side, and then Netrioid says, oh, there goes Barra. And he has to sit in lane and watch as Barracuda comes over and evens the fight. And Netrioid did everything right. He stayed in lane, he punished Barra, he shoved waves, he made sure he was denying minions, he got towers, he got global gold. But I think Sanguine run away with this game if they don't have to worry about this global ultimate. this play by Gold Fury. I don't think Cupid's getting you off gold with this much space like Barrett did. This is a football field worth of space created by that Apollo ult, and Renegades take that. And then ultimately at the very end, I mean, what else can you say? A quadra kill for the kid. I mean, Barracuda just absolutely lights out. When you're tossing autos and starting to turn to your next target before that auto even connects to kill him, you know you're feeling it. An absolutely unbelievable fight for Barracuda. And look, the Renegades boys on Twitter, they've been popping off with the smack talk after the fact. They clearly did not appreciate the disrespect that Sanguine was showing them. I think that they are right to be able to gloat a little bit. They came in and they dominated today.
Yeah, 7-0-4 there for Barra, undying as he goes through. Herwind, I mean, we saw Sanguine get off to what felt like such a great start. We're sitting in the green room, and we were all talking about how, oh, maybe we are going to a Game 4. 25,000 damage done here by Yarkor. I mean, where does it start to fall apart for Sanguine? Was it just the rotations from Barracuda, or were there some other underlying issues you saw?
Yeah, I think there's a little bit more going on than that. I think there's, you know, they got a fire giant, and it kind of looked like, you know, Renegades engaged on them off the Phoenix, and they just still looked hesitant. Like, in my opinion, it looked like they should be just absolutely running them down for trying to engage on them off the Phoenix, and they just still looked really unsure of themselves. I think the game looked better. The nerves didn't seem to be as big of an issue, but they were still quite apparent, in my opinion. And yeah, I mean, like you said, like the Apollo just had to go. I mean, they're winning really hard on the solo side of the map, and I mean, I don't know if they're just forgetting that it exists or they don't care that it's coming. You know, they split push to tier 2, but you just see all that momentum wiped from the map as soon as Barracuda comes over in that one rotation, and they had the opportunity to remove it. I don't know why they didn't. It's kind of uncharacteristic from Sanguine, and it's just kind of unfortunate to lose the game that way, but that's ultimately just what happened.
I mean, you had called it out when we went into picks and bans there, specifically saying that they seemed like a team that maybe wasn't adapting. Again, you had called it uncharacteristic at the time then. It's something that you have to do on these world stages, especially in a best of 5. Game 3 can't have the same mistakes as Game 1, and Renegades ran it 1, 2, and 3 throughout all of that. It's the story of 3 zeros here throughout the week so far. Renegades find themselves 2 clean wins, only 6 games that it took them to get all the way up there to now play Ghost Gaming tomorrow. Not far-fetched for them to think they can win at least one of those. I think they even took a set off of Ghost Gaming at one point this year. Maybe I'm misremembering that. I do remember the game, though, a nice 65-minute win that stood as one of the longest ones. It was a very interesting one throughout that. We are going to be able to break down more of this. Once again, I actually have to extend thanks to Herwind for coming out and Aggro for sitting here on the desk with me for this set. But we're going to go through more of this set as well as talk about PK versus SSG. All of that coming up on the halftime show in just a bit.